You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 397, The Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 2, The Tribes of Tatooine. And to say that I'm excited to talk about this episode is probably a bit of an understatement. It was an episode that had me on the edge of my seat. I was talking to myself at many points throughout the show, and when it was all over, I just had to get a bunch of stuff out. And so I threw this thing out on Twitter that went a little viral, which was really fun. And yeah, it was, for me, we're going to get into all this in just a little bit. For me, it was just the best of what Star Wars has to give us. So I'm pretty excited about this episode and then finally getting the chance to talk to the best that Star Wars has to give us. Wow. Speaking of which, see, you didn't think I was going to be able to work one in there, but I did. Jonesy is with us tonight. Jonesy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I didn't know if you were going to be able to get it out without laughing or stumbling. So
yeah,
nicely done, sir.
Thank you.
How's it going tonight?
I'm good, energized.
To say you're excited is an understatement of the century.
We've got 4 pages of notes. So typically, what
He's
are our notes?
Lying.
About?
He's really not lying.
About 2 pages, maybe, is what we normally do.
It took me like 4 things to slide through. But
oh yeah. So we got that, and then on top of that, I was like, well, let me just grab the highlights in terms of screenshots, and I don't know. There's it's basically a frame by frame analysis at this point. So just get ready, buckle up. So yeah, for those of you that are joining us either tonight for the first time or you need to get to bed early, don't worry. This will probably be a longer show. Maybe I'm thinking about 2 hours. So if you guys need to cut out and come back, or let's pick it up later, that's totally fine. It'll be on YouTube, and
we'll still be online.
We'll still be here tomorrow when you wake up. So
right.
Talking about this, but yeah. So let's get into a little bit of news. There was actually quite a bit of news, especially around the High Republic. Right. Why don't you kick us off just high level on what we're going to talk about? Because we're actually going to do for our Patreon episode this week, which we'll actually record tomorrow, just as a show note. We'll record that tomorrow night because the show may go a little bit longer. But we're going to get into all of the announcements that happened with the High Republic and break those down. But high level, Jonesy, what were some of the big things that were announced just a couple days ago?
Yeah, I mean, the new phase is starting, right? And we're jumping back to the future, basically, or future to the back. Mm-hmm. We're going back 150 years. That was really the big, the big bombshell, if you will, that we're going to go back in time. And we had a lot of fun with that, as speculating, and especially you on Twitter there, of what that could actually mean and why we might go back in time. And looking forward to the Patreon show, because I imagine that we'll dig into a little bit of your theories there, which I really don't think are all that much tin hat theories. I think they're actually pretty legit and quite reasonable. And I think it's something that could very well happen. And it's a pretty exciting thing to think about. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, was there something that jumped out to you though immediately? I mean, we didn't get a whole lot. We got some of the titles, but we didn't get a lot of details about what's going to happen.
No. Yeah, I mean, one
new character, right?
There was some new characters.
We got
new authors.
A younger Porter Engle.
Yeah, Porter Engle announcement. He's getting his own series. That all indicators point to it being some type of a comic book or graphic novel, which would be cool because Charles Soule's kind of in his medium there right now. We've got some new writers coming in, so that's kind of exciting. Some of these folks have never done Star Wars, but that's
But we do have George Mann. So George Mann has been working with Kevin Scott for a long time, and of course did the Life Day Treasury and a few other things as well. So how do you feel about new writers coming in when you've gotten really comfortable, and especially when we've had the relationship we've had with this set of writers, and they've done really so well just cumulatively, if not spectacularly individually. We've got bestsellers at the wazoo here. Does that make you nervous, or does that energize you that you're going to get some fresh takes on it? Like, how do you feel when you get news like that?
So I don't know the specifics, but I do know several months ago, all of the writers went back and got together again. They kind of tweeted about it. It was very hush hush. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of details shared. And my thinking here is, if they were going to bring new writers in, it feels like they would have to not necessarily do a reset, but just kind of regroup and get the new writers up to date. Right. And I want to say that that was probably what they were doing. Again, pure speculation. I'm going off of, again, the tweets, but it sounds like they probably all got together, pulled in the new writers, got everybody up to date on what's going on, laid out the plans for what phase 2 is going to look like, so that these guys are not going in blind and working off script, almost literally, right? They're staying with the MO and staying true to the narrative they're trying to tell that they had laid out, 2 years ago or whatever it was. So
Yeah, and the thing that people should take comfort in, if this does make them nervous, is that this has been the single most cohesive storytelling experience that we've had, and all within the course of a year, really, that we've,
Mhm.
I think, probably ever had in Star Wars, right? Especially in this amount of time across different mediums of books and comics and just multiple authors or multiple sources of where they're going. That consistency and that uh, just that cohesion is just so important, and when we've seen it work so well, that it's encouraging that that type of thing is going to continue, because that's what has made, I think, these so successful, is that you have all of these stories that are going on simultaneously, and you kind of jump in and out of them, or which ones you like the most. And some of them you have to go back and read, as Lauren, who's in the chat tonight, is kind of having to experience. And sometimes one book might work better for us than another one, but
Yep.
but it's cool though that you get all of these moments, and sometimes you have really key moments you have to know from another book, even if it's a young adult book rather than just the adult series or something like that. So I think it's really cool how they've done that, and that will continue even with the new authors. And I agree with you, by them pulling everybody in, even if it's just the core team, how are we going to hand this off to the next wave? How are we still going to integrate with all of this? And I think that's super, super important.
Yeah.
But they've all confirmed that they're involved with it, though.
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
all
every one
still-
of them. All the
yeah,
existing ones are. So
yeah, they're all still
Well-
very involved with the next phase. So that's very encouraging.
Yep. They're and then I guess the last piece on the High Republic before we move on is the Fallen Star is out as of this recording. So
Yeah.
if you've not had a chance to pick that book up, please pick it up. It is definitely, if you're invested in the High Republic, you cannot not pick this book up. It is.
Yeah, it's a must read. Yeah.
It's a must read, an absolute must read, and it is a very, very good book. I shared my spoiler-free review, and I had some critical things that we're going to really dig into once we start doing the analysis of the book in several weeks here. But don't let that be a reason why you don't pick it up, whether it be the novel or the audiobook. Mark Thompson's talents are just, again, off the charts. So
Right.
do yourself a favor, pick that book up, read it, get caught up so that you're ready for the show when we finally get around to that. So
Hey,
and I'll,
you can't get enough of Mark Thompson's Wookiee.
speaking of Mark Thompson,
Yeah. Hey,
uh,
he's out of the hospital.
yeah.
And quite honestly, had a pretty epic hospital release Instagram video where he's like ET and like had now how he gets away with having the ET theme in the background, and we get flagged on Facebook every 5 seconds.
right.
I don't even understand, and we're not even doing anything wrong. And he straight up lifted that out of ET.
He did. Yeah.
I'm gonna call
yeah,
some
he was
BS
in-
on this one.
He was in the hospital. And the details are on his Facebook page if you follow him there. Or
Yeah.
I think he's done some public stuff. But
Pretty potentially serious thing, but yeah.
yeah, but he's out, and he went straight to go see The Matrix. I think he went and saw that at the movie theater. He posted some pictures about
Is
that.
he back in the hospital?
No, I like that movie. I don't. The guys
Did you
that
go
filmed.
see it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've seen it. It's on HBO Max,
Oh, okay.
which I have. Yeah, and the film appraisers, to plug them because we're going to plug them a little bit later too.
Right.
It doesn't sound like they liked it, so I have to listen to that episode to see what Joe and not
Josh.
Jeff, Josh, Jesus, what was it say?
Wow. Imperial Moonwalker.
Imperial
From
Moonwalker
Discord,
is really what we know him as, but I'm curious as to see what they say, because I think I'm going to get a bunch of crap for liking that movie.
yeah. Hey, and if you want to go check that episode out, eargluemedia.com/TFA will take you right to their page, and you'll see it right there at the top.
What else do we have? Was that it for news?
Well, Charles Soule had a little bit of news for us too, that the third arc of the Kira trilogy, what he calls the Kira trilogy, is called The Hidden Empire, and it's currently slated to go from June through November. So, and of course, Josh is with us in the chat, Imperial Moonwalker, and he's okay with being called Jeff, I guess.
I'm typing to him now. I am so sorry I called him. I've broke bread with this guy. He lives here in my town. We've seen movies together many
We've
times,
done a
so.
lot of things with those, with him and others.
But Joe, I remember, but Jeff, not so much. I'm sorry.
Right? Yeah,
I'm
Joe
sorry,
is
Jeff.
much more memorable.
All right.
We love everyone at the EGM.
Okay. Where are we at now? Are we ready to do this?
Well,
We got a couple
Patreon.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, so we got a new Patreon, Dark Tower Collectibles. It signed up for the Green Milk tier, so a huge thank to Dark Towers. And to celebrate that and all of the Book of Boba stuff, he actually donated a few comics. so that we can do a giveaway. So we've got a few here of Bounty Hunter, third print number 1. We've got, I can't do this on cameras. Everything's backward. The War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha with the black armor.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really wicked. That's the third print one, that's my favorite cover.
That is really good
of the bunch. And then another War of the Bounty Hunter Alpha cover, which is again Steve McNiven, and this is dynamite cover right here too. So what we will do is, Dark Tower Collectibles, he sells comics and other. He had a hockey jersey in the office the other day, and he sells this stuff on eBay as well as on Instagram. And if you want to go check him out, ebay.com/str/Dark Towers Collectibles and more. But what he has done for us is that he's downloaded or given these to us, and we'll do a giveaway. And all you have to do is reach out to us on social media, or you can email us at cantinacastfanmail.com or at gmail.com rather, and tell us what your favorite moment of episode 2 was, or chapter 2 of Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, and why it was yours. So that's all you have to do. And we'll randomly pick a winner next week on the live show. We'll just do a quick live drawing, and we will announce who it is, and we'll get that over to you. So again, if you want to participate, all you have to do is find us on social media. It's basically the Cantina Cast for everything. And yeah, hit us up. You can reply to this video or whatever you'd like to do. We will get the message.
Yeah, I'll get something out there. It'll be something quick, but we'll get something out there where you can actually reply to on social media as well. So
yeah, and definitely go out there and check out Dark Tower Collectibles. He's got really lots of cool stuff. There's a comic lover, slabbed comics, graded comics, raw. He's got all the good stuff. So certainly go out there and check it out.
Yes, thank you for doing that, for donating that. Okay, let's see. What else do we got?
That's it, man. Now we get to it. Good, the bad, and the ugly. The
good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, so what we're going to do is we start off with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Things that we felt were really good about this episode, things that we felt were really bad about this episode, and things that were just really ugly about this episode. And boy, do I have a few ugly things to talk about. So do you want me to go first? Because it's really the show notes for me, right, in terms of what was good. Because I've already kind of...
you just want me to come back later?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll take
cool.
Take 5. I'll be back here. So I've got... Let me get into my good stuff.
Yeah.
And number 1, just really quickly, Steph Green, I don't know where you've been. I know I went and looked to see what she's directed, but my goodness, there were so many shots, and you're going to see them when we're going through the screenshots that I took that are just, I mean, I hate to make the comparison to somebody like Rian Johnson, but it's that same kind of thing where every shot so many shots within this episode are just beautiful to look at. The way they're framed, the composition, the staging of where the characters are at, the direction, the different types of views. I mean, this is all film appraiser stuff, so I don't want to get into it because they're going to really tear me apart for not saying the right terminology, but just cinematically, it was just a pleasure to look at. So I can't wait. I hope she's got more stuff in line either here or in another episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I really enjoyed was one of my favorite movies of all time is Lawrence of Arabia, and this had echoes of Lawrence of Arabia beginning to end, right? This whole concept of him going in and becoming one with the natives and the locals, and then going in and the train heist and all that's pulled right out of there. But there were also I know people have made the comparisons to like The Last Samurai, and I said Dances with Wolves was on one that that certainly reminded me a lot of that movie, and then a little bit of Avatar, but Avatar is kind of pulling from all three of those. So you know what I mean. So, but yeah, that this whole concept, this trope, is very, very familiar. And it's like the first time that I can recall that we've actually seen it in Star Wars, which is really exciting because I actually love this trope a lot. I don't think I've ever seen it and went, well, I don't really care for that. It was just great. Okay, let me keep going here. The costuming. Everyone's costumes are just phenomenal. Like, yeah. And some of them are just very plain because they need to be, right? Cammy's not in anything but basically a bed sheet. But if you look at some of the costumes, like for the Tusken Raiders, we've talked about them. I'm calling them the JJ Biker Band, right? Those the bikers, their outfits are really, really nice looking. And then Madame Garza's is just phenomenal. Like it's so intricate in terms of what they did. So, and just beginning to end, like all of these costumes are just really good. So I know we don't talk about costumes a lot, but it did stand out.
I just love the way that Jennifer Beals like delivers lines.
I just love Jennifer Beals.
I know I could just listen to her all day though too.
Yeah. She's like a crush of mine that I've had for 30 years.
Oh wow.
Ever since Flashdance.
I'm not even 30 years old.
All right. I know. Let's see. Okay. Twins and Black K, right? I mean, I was not expecting the twins. I wasn't expecting CGI.
We should pause. We should pause right here. We are going to spoil the living hell out of this episode, this chapter, right?
Yeah.
So you've been
Oh.
warned. This will be spoiler heavy, no holds barred here. So if you haven't seen it, pause, go watch it, come back and listen to us. Otherwise, prepare to be spoiled.
Yeah.
You've had your warning.
So yes, Black Chrysanthemum, that was just being able to see that for the first time,
Mhm.
and having read the comics, and I mean, and then even like they didn't. It's almost like a carbon copy right out of the comic books, right? They didn't
Oh my
really
God, yeah.
have to do much to him.
Mm-mm.
And sometimes you worry about that, right? When they bring him over they lift him off the comic books or out of a novel or something. There's always, something changed about him because they feel like it's not going to appeal to the audience. But this is exactly what I think for the most part, he's exactly what he looks like. I can't remember if he had one shoulder pad, spiked arm pad, or shoulder pad, or two. But in this one, he had two. I just can't remember if it was one or not.
I think in the comics he had one, but it would make sense. He may have had two at some point though. But you talk about true to life of what you've seen in one medium and bring it to another.
Mm-hmm.
They knocked it out of the park. It was just right on the money.
Yeah. And we'll get into him in a little bit more. Okay, number 5. The female warrior, whatever her name is, whatever we're calling her, I'm just calling her she, is just like wonderful.
The Tuscan second in command.
Yeah, like the warrior, the main warrior. I don't know what they have never really given her a title or anything, but yeah, and I want to get into that a little bit later too. But just everything about her is just phenomenal and fantastic. So everything from about the 41-minute mark in this episode to the very end, literally into the very last second, was just great filmmaking, beginning to end. I mean, it's just, and I know people, I've had, my Twitter posts, there were some people that were pushing back saying this was not very good. I know we've had people even in our own Discord that said it just wasn't, it was just okay for them. I don't know. For me, again, it just was hitting all the right, checking all the right boxes, hitting all the right buttons, whatever the cliche is, but his new robes, getting the new stick, the ceremonial acceptance, the rebirth of that character, which came to the Vision quest there at the very end, was, just prime television for me. I mean, there were many times throughout this episode where I was literally talking out loud saying, I can't believe I'm seeing this, and I can't believe it's Star Wars, right? Everything from that, from the new CGI with the 2 huts that I didn't think we were going to see in the series, to the Vision quest and just the montages and all of that stuff. I just really wasn't sure that we were ever going to see stuff like that, and we certainly did, and it paid in quite a bit. So, okay, and then the last thing, and then I'll let you go because I think you've got one thing. The theme of this is, we keep hearing rule with respect, and this was the episode where, for me, it finally clicked. Why? Number 1, that is the logo or the slogan for this show. Number 2, when the music, you remember when the music was first, we heard it and it first played when the Tusken Raiders came out, and we were talking, I think it was on the show, we were talking, I said, that's really weird that is this theme that we hear at the very end of, episode 1. And, it's Boba's theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
This makes complete sense now, right? This makes total sense now. It is the theme of the Tusken Raiders, but it is the theme of Boba Fett because of his time that he spent here. On top of that, this whole slogan of rule with respect we're starting to see a mirroring of the 2 storylines now, right? Everything that's happening in the past, and again, this is kind of speculation on my part. I'm starting to see it. I'm not saying it's going to play out and continue this way, but everything that we're seeing happen in the past is what we may potentially be seeing that happens in the present. In other words, he is come in, he's trying to establish himself, he's earned the respect of the Tusken Raiders, and now we're seeing in the present time, he's trying to do that same thing to earn the respect of the other daimos or underground people and all that. And so it explains a lot about his character and where he is and his approach, right? This just explains so much for me.
We'll have to debate
a
some
lot
of
of
that
clarity.
we'll have to debate some of that as we go through the show.
Yeah, we'll do that in hour 3. Okay, so and that's all I have. There's plenty more good for me, but I'll get to those as we get through the episode as it comes up. But give me yours. Right. What do you got?
Well, I'll be a little more succinct, but yeah, Black K and Black Chrysanthemum. I couldn't tell you how loud I yelled and how excited I was because this character in the comic book. So he was first shown in the Star Wars flagship comic books that were released, not this wave, but the original wave when Marvel took back over. And he's just a badass. And he's been in the Afra comics, the Vader comics, all these things. And it's just really, really cool to see that character and them just to get it so right. And the most menacing Wookiee I think we've seen potentially ever. That black fur and the way that they had it in the snarl, and the way that they did the voicing of it, or that growl, that guttural kind of feeling that you get, or that sound, was just absolutely perfect, and very much like any Wookiee we've heard before, which is this guy's like on steroids, right?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Something else I really, really liked was gosh, you're talking, you're preaching to the choir about the end of this episode, like I love the parallels when he's crafting the gaffy stick with the armor, and the contrast of that with the armor from the Mandalorian. I thought was just beautiful the way that they did that. The Vision Quest was really cool as well. It was a little weird in that respect. I liked some of the shots were really cool, and it was interesting to be able to make connections with other Star Wars films at times about what was going on, and even things from our childhood. So the train was a great example. When I looked at the train, like when Boba goes into the cockpit, or into whatever it's called in a train, the conductor's room, and he looked out and it's on fire. It actually reminded me of Back to the Future 3.
Right, with the train sequence. Yeah.
I mean, it was, and I didn't put them side by side, but I imagine they're pretty close. And so it was just a lot of fun to have those types of things. And so I really enjoyed those aspects of the episode, and you touched on a lot of them, so I won't regurgitate it, but it was a lot of, this episode from beginning to end was a lot of fun. And I was very critical of chapter 1 with the dream type of sequence. And I'm still critical to that. If we're talking about kind of the bad, I'm still critical that we're spending so much time in the past rather than talking about, what is going on right now, because that seems to be a bit of an afterthought. That part, I'm still hoping we get somewhere, but this was so critical to get right. And I'm with you. It's very much, it finally became very clear about why rule with respect is important to him. Now, we had a nice lively debate in Discord about, is really Boba any different than some of his predecessors? And so that would be interesting to debate with you a little bit here too, as well. But man, there were so many good things about this. The little Tusken kid, man, he won my heart. I love that guy. He's just this little
Tusk kid.
Yeah, Tusk kid.
Yeah.
And his little feet, they little shuffle. He's just so cute. So he's great.
And that's Jimmy Kimmel's son. Oh,
really?
Yes.
That is so funny.
Yeah. I mean, we know, and if you know Jimmy Kimmel, he's a massive, massive Star Wars fan.
Right.
He actually does like special episodes around the premieres of the movies, and talks about Star Wars all the time. But yeah, that's his son that got that role. So
yeah. But, and I guess perhaps the most perfect scene that I enjoyed the most was definitely the dressing of Boba, the rebirth, the wraps, and there was the care that it was going in, and then the costuming, again, you said was perfect. The fabrics were just exactly what you would expect for a Tusken, and just the care that they did, and the wrapping, and it was just really, really cool to see. I really enjoyed that sequence because it really did. I mean, he kind of did a little, pose when he came out, which is a little funny. I chuckled a little bit at that one, but just that sequence was just very intimate in that kind of way, and it was just a peek behind the scenes that you have to go through this spirit journey in order to have this moment. And it was really telling that they would welcome an outsider into that. And so I just thought that was really, really, really well played.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the other thing I liked about that wrapping sequence, well, I'll save it when we come back to it. We'll come back.
Okay.
The bad, and I do have two things that are bad, believe it or not, and they're very minor. Okay, so don't start on me, right? Don't at me here. But in terms of the bad, I'm with you on. I still don't understand where the show is at, and I have a theory as to why they're doing this or what they're doing, and it's kind of obvious now for me. I mean, it may have been obvious for everyone else, but for me, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I get what they're trying to do here, and I may be wrong, but I'm still not sure where this show sits, because traditionally we have more present time and less flashback time, right? We saw that in Mandalorian. We see that in television time and time again. Right. The only exception that I can think of is something like Lost, where the whole concept around the show was time travel versus, things, and, all that was all kind of in play. It was part of the show. This is not what we're doing here. And so when you get, I think, 14 minutes is all we got, 11 minutes, 14 minutes, somewhere, whatever it was, less than 15 for present day on a 53-minute show, right? that's a lot of time dedicated to the past. And I get what they're
Yeah.
doing. That it's kind of important, and I loved every minute of it. However, it does make me wonder where the show, what they're trying to do with the show. And the best way I could, rationalize this is they are literally trying to make a book of Boba Fett, right? I mean, it's in the title. They're giving us a television show that's almost filmed as though you were to pick up a book and film it the way the book reads, right? Because in a book, this is not uncommon. You can have chapters where you've got all flashback. You can have entire multiple chapters, one after another, that are flashbacks, and that
That
sort
one
of
right
thing.
there, memories. 9
Yeah.
chapters of memories, I think, in Lesser Evil for the Throne Ascendancy book. Yeah.
So that's not uncommon in books, right? But
Right.
it wasn't until this episode that I guess it finally clicked for me. Is that okay? Maybe they're trying to visually give us a book, and that's why we're getting a lot of this jumping around and a lot of time being dedicated to the past, which means that it could be all past and less present, or at some point it could flip, right? Maybe the last 4 episodes are all present, and we get no past at that point. It's hard to tell at this point, but it's very different. And so for
Yeah.
me, I guess that would be the bad is I'm just still not, for me personally, I'm not sure where this thing is, how it's been set up to play out.
I think that's a totally fair assessment too, because again, we don't really. Usually, you have the backstory fills in the blanks. It doesn't. It's not the premier story to where the current is just. I don't even know how to explain it. It just feels backwards, right? It just kind of feels very backwards, and we're not getting enough progression in the current story to where it feels like there's absolutely nothing going on. It's kind of what it feels like. It feels like we've spent a day basically with Boba, and we have no idea what's going on. It's like, is this a day in a life of, or a couple of days, or what? And so I am hoping that now that we've got some really critical story elements from the past established, can we now start to split this time a bit more evenly, or maybe lean heavier in the current, so that we can progress that story? Because usually that's what keeps you coming back to it. That's what's going to drive everything forward, because there's only so much backstory you can do before people are like, well, why didn't you just fill in the backstory?
Yeah,
Why'd you even bring him in? It just doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of backstory still to get through. I'm confident of that, but I hope that we get a bit more of either an even divide, or we just lean a little heavier on the current, because I'm with you. I think we need to know where we're pushing towards, rather than, because, and we'll talk about it, we just got so many questions about what does it actually mean to be a daimyo in Boba's opinion.
Yeah.
It's really unclear what he's actually trying to accomplish here.
I can see them taking the backstory. I mean, they can if they want. They can take this
There's
backstory.
so much. Got 5 years of it.
They can take it all the way up until the point where he sees that speeder bike go by with his armor strapped to the back of it.
Yeah.
And that could be literally how it ends, or that's the last flashback that he has at that point. So we'll see. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing, just quickly, the other second thing that I had a minor issue with, and it's the CGI, the speeder bikes. And we had the same feedback during The Mandalorian in season 2, chapter 1, the Marshal. Right, when they're kind of trolling just very casually, the speeder bikes look a little weird. The CGI looks a little off. There were some scenes where they were kind of coming in from the front, right at the camera, which were cool visually, but yeah, they look a little odd.
The one you're talking about in particular is Boba's. There with all of the everyone's around him, and they're all kind of in that gang kind of pose of all the motorcycles coming at you. Yeah,
but that's fair. Again, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's.
Well, and what's weird about it is, like, so when they come over the sand dune and they all kind of land, when they're all chasing after the train, that looked phenomenal. And then you're right. Then you get the head-on shots, and it just seems flat. And I think some of it is the acting in this one. It's that there's not enough dynamism.
Dynamics?
Yeah, whatever. They're not moving around enough. Yeah. So they're
dynamic movement.
Yeah, exactly. So it just seems flat, and it seems still, and it seems lifeless. And it helps if you have a little of that. Now, you can do too much. We've seen way too much before, right? Hello, Star Trek. But it's
hey, easy.
Well, I mean, it's true though. I'm not really taking a dig, because even Star Trek fans will admit that even TNG was like that.
Yeah.
That makes it lovable too, right? But
yeah.
Anyway, but that's one of the things that I think you got to bring it to life a little bit. But you're right. The backgrounds still seem dull. They seem just dull, like color palette wise. And I know it's a desert, but it just seems pale to me, and it's just not work. There's something just not quite working about it. And I'm sorry, the CGI I'm going to slip by in here. The CGI on the huts I thought was horrible. I'm just going to say it.
Oh,
I thought it was bad.
I thought it was
really bad.
I thought it was good for television. I mean, it's not a movie budget.
But it looked like a New Hope Jabba. I literally thought, and maybe it was an homage to that.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe it was. You're right.
That's horrible.
Like,
I'm sorry.
like a way
I'm
to
going to be really critical
self-correct.
of this one.
Well, way to like look, here goes everybody dropping. We've already lost 5 people. And maybe it was like a, self-correct kind of thing, or I don't know.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the concepts of the huts and things like that. And actually, that's one of the things I liked was the, if you pay attention to the people holding the litter and they're just sitting there, one guy's like he's really struggling to stand up. Right. Yeah. I just loved it. I thought it was perfect. Those were the little moments like that I thought were really, really cool. And gave that scene more life and character. I like the dialogue. I like the way that they had that scene. It was just the visuals just weren't working for me at all. But yeah, if they were,
Lauren agrees with you. She says, I thought they were going for A New Hope look.
Yeah, and if they did, man, they knocked it out of the park because it definitely looked like 1997.
I prefer
that was
Zero.
A dig.
Look at that.
Oh, Zero the Hutt. Yeah.
Well, Zero the Hutt. I hate that guy.
There he is. It's been a while. Thank you for pulling that out. It's been a long time since you've done it.
I need to practice them. I haven't done them in so long. Okay. All right. Let's get to the. Speaking of Hutts, let's get to the ugly. I had 2 uglies. Boba's back was pretty disgusting, and the mole on the sister's chin. Like I just couldn't stop looking at it. Like my hand was slowly reaching out to the screen just to flick it. It was disgusting. So if you get a chance, take a look at the mole. I was going to zoom in and provide screenshots, and I didn't. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you though?
I am going to say, well, I had another funny moment. So the Tatooinians in the bar, they reminded me another Back to the Future reference, Back to the Future 2 with Biff and the guys with like the shades, his crew.
Oh, right.
They totally reminded me of all of those guys. But I'm gonna, besides the Tatooinians being a bit not easy on the eyes, I'm gonna say that the ugly was the laziness on their jacket. Where if you translate the Orabesh on the bottom of their jacket, it says Tatooine.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, really, guys, you are so unimaginative that you would just put Tatooine on your back. And there's no other words on there. I didn't see any other lettering back there. So
that says, where you going? Moly, moly, moly. Yep. The entire time I was looking at it.
Yeah.
They're so I think what they're doing for that Tatooine on the back, it's like a biker, right? If it's a biker gang, what do they call a flock of, is it a flock of bikers? I'm kidding. I have no idea what it is. A gang. It's a gang of bikers, right? Whatever. Yeah. They have their local chapters and they always have their name on the back. And so this is the chapter for the Tatooine planet. So that's not uncommon for them to have it, but it's just, that's like the only, well,
do we have an Earth chapter of the Hells Angels?
No, because we're not intergalactic yet.
Yes, we have a Space Force.
You're getting ahead of yourself here. There is some writing on the bottom at the bottom of the jacket, and I've not had a chance to go through and look at that. So it has a Tatooine thing on there. It's got the logo of what looks like, or we'll show that in a little bit. The Rancor skeleton, whatever the logo is,
right?
And then
Moochie, right?
Yeah, Moochie. Or maybe it is followers of Moochie. And then the bottom has some Orabesh as well, but there was only one shot that I could see, and it was like half of whatever that word is, and I did not translate it. I'm sure someone else has already done a video on it, so we haven't gotten there yet. So
right,
okay. Are we ready to start the show notes?
Yeah,
like to actually get into this. All right, I'm going to pull up. We're going to go through. I've got 8 million screenshots here to cycle through, so just bear with us as we do this. Let me make this full screen. There we go. So here we go. Tribes of Tatooine. And of course, it opens with the first shot. We talked about this in the trailer. This was one of the first ones that we'd seen. We knew there was somebody coming up there, Jabba's palace, or now Boba's palace. I got to remind myself to call it Boba's palace and not Jabba's palace. But she's walking in this Night Wind Order. So we got the name in this episode, which it was not a name that I did not go out to Wikipedia. So if it's, I'll probably be wrong if I say this, but it doesn't sound like, it isn't a gang that I recall. I think it's a new gang altogether.
Yeah, it's a order of assassins, right?
Yeah, that are expensive.
That are very expensive and overrated, apparently.
Yeah.
This is where, again, Fennec shines in these moments, right? Mm-hmm. This whole sequence here where she's just unimpressed and almost defensive about some of it. Like, he's not that good. It was just perfect.
We've got this scene here, very reminiscent of Return of the Jedi when the gate opens up.
Yeah, and this shot was too, right? Luke,
Yep.
from the side when he was presented in front of Jabba. There were a lot of homages to Return of the Jedi in the sequence.
Such a terrible and unsafe way to walk a prisoner behind you. That's a very good point. You should always walk them. They should always be in front of you, not behind you. But maybe that speaks to her badassness. She
That's right.
knows he can't do anything. Well, he was kind of chained and shackled, so. But he could have easily gone for like a choke or something, Okay, so they bring him in, giving him a third degree, want to know who he is, all that. And this is where we learn the name. We also learn that they don't ever give up, who they work for, who's hired them.
Right.
And I think it was in this moment here where he yells back "Ichuta," which we know from
very rude.
From Empire Strikes Back. I always thought, even back in Empire Strikes Back, to me that's always been "F-U," like, and maybe it isn't. I don't know if it's ever been actually translated, but that's basically what he's. And it would make sense here that he would say that to him, right? They're threatening his life, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever, buddy, F-U." And we didn't mention 8D8. I mean, there were a couple things that we didn't mention in the last episode because we did it the night of, and I mean, good Lord, we had a lot of show notes, and we're not going to always get everything. But I did want to mention that is 8D8, the torture droid from Return of the Jedi. Excuse me. And now he's being repurposed as, I don't know what, really. He's just kind of like this liaison or something, or an advisor of some sort. I don't know what his role here is with Boba. Maybe he's just one of the only people around that was still available to help out. So he goes and gets coffee or whatever else. Yeah, so he won't budge. They throw him down into the Rancor pit. Very cool stuff. I mean, this is all reminiscent of Return of the Jedi with Luke going down to shoot.
Right.
I didn't capture that in here, but that was almost like a frame by frame kind of setup for that. And then this look of them. So all of this was a big ruse. There was no Rancor. I was really hoping that Moochie was going to come out when he went down in there. I mean, I was fine. I liked the little gag here, and I liked, the way Fennec handled it, and then the little rat that was there, which we'll talk about Ratgate here in a second. But he finally confesses that, the mayor, I don't know if I have it here. So there's the gate, and that's the gate from Return of the Jedi, the one that Luke goes up against when he's trying to get out. That's kind of cool. And yeah, here's that moment here where he finally confesses that it was the Mayor McCheese, that is who sent him to kill him. So, and then there's the rat. So there was a lot of people were upset that there was a rat in Star Wars.
I can't believe we're giving this.
This is how stupid. I'm sorry, but I was just floored and beside myself. The amount of criticism that people look for now when they can't find any, and talking about how there shouldn't be rats in Star Wars because that's a earthly thing. But I mean, we got womp rats, we got mouse droids. I mean, you can go on. There's tons of things that you could throw out there as analogies or reasons why. But really, this is what you're focusing on, the rats of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Anyways, it was a good little thing. But okay, let's move on. We get into another glorious shot of Mos Espa.
And they decide to go and pay the mayor a visit.
Yeah, play the mayor a visit now that he's
bring back his trash. Yeah.
There's this is the walk of shame that they're doing here, pulling him through the streets. And the one thing that stood out for me during all this, I mean, yeah, he's not, he doesn't have his litter, and there's people looking and staring, and they probably all know it's who he is at this point. But the number of Trandoshans that seem to be just kind of hanging out, number one, and then they're giving him like this creepiest look. Like, these guys here are pretty creepy, but this dude on the right here, I mean, look at that. That look could kill you right here on the right hand side.
Left one, the kind of,
or is it the left, the purple?
Well, the one, I mean, neither one of them are looking all that hot, dude. So
right. But yeah, I mean, these guys look like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So what, do you have any theories as to why? Like, and the reason I bring this up is because it did feel like the shot hung on them for a little bit longer than normal. And I don't know if it was because they were trying to show off how cool they're looking, because this is some pretty good, CGI mixed with maybe it's not CGI. Maybe it's all just real,
These look practical. Yeah.
Practical effects. But yeah, any reasons as to why that they hung on these guys as long as they did? Do you think we're going to see them a little bit later?
Well, I mean, we know we're going to get Trandoshans in kind of a meeting with Boba Fett, and it'd be interesting to go back and see if any of these guys were part of that. But it could be that there's just a Trandoshan contingent here, and I'm curious if they work for the other ones as well. But the one on the left here with the blue, sweater looks a bit homely, I guess, for some of the stuff. But I don't know. They look like they're just having breakfast.
Yeah, this is the guy that he's the more
he actually looks like he's, a pilot or mechanic or something like that. He actually looks functional. The rest of these guys just look overdressed.
Yeah, and hot and sweaty.
Right. And I mean, if you're a lizard, I don't think you'd be out in the sunshine so much. But
Lizard.
yeah,
They're okay. Well, and then the other thing I want to mention is we did have all the Trandoshans from Mandalorian during season 1. So
yeah, we
I mean,
did.
it's not uncommon for this planet to have a lot of Trandoshans. It's just
Right.
the reason that we got 5 of them on screen for so long is just interesting.
Okay, now you got to talk. Yeah, you got to tell me what you think about this scene where you're not on the list, basically. Like with the what'd you call him in the show notes?
Oh, I called. So this is this actor is played by Galen Howard.
Right.
I've got a better picture of him here, and I went out to his Twitter just to see what he had said, and of course he's glorifying his role, and he seems like a pretty level-headed guy, and he's actually, from what I understand, he actually likes a lot of the videos or a lot of the social media that the film appraisers, again, found on Eargludia. He's actually interacted with those guys as well. So,
that's cool.
But on his Twitter page, he had put in here that he looked like a rejected Doobie Brother. So if you know what the Doobie Brothers look like, which, you kind of have to be old or have some old roots, I think, to kind of understand what they look like. But yeah, he's not wrong. He looks like an ex-Confederate kind of army guy too, with that hat.
Yeah, he looked like he was in the Civil War.
Civil War, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. It's a bit role, and he labels himself as a character actor. He's not like out there doing dramas or whatever. But yeah, it was
Matt
fine.
Damon doing crypto commercials.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I wonder if we're gonna get more of him. He was certainly funny, but
it was kind of a weird sequence though.
Yeah.
Again, the tone of the tone of Book of Boba is a little inconsistent at times, right? We don't really get a lot of dialogue out of Boba a lot of the time. And then we have moments like this, which are kind of trying to be lighthearted, but they just kind of stall out. And I don't know, for me, it fell a little bit flat. I was okay with the gag. It was a pretty played out gag though.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine, I think. So
I'd rather bitch about that than about a rat.
Me too. I'm glad you bring it up. And not talking about anything else. Okay, so this is where this creep shows up again.
Yeah, Major Domo's back.
Yep, Major D. You know what? But yeah, he's really good. I don't know anything about this actor. I know everybody's been praising him, my brother included. But yeah, I haven't seen anything he's ever been in. But I can tell you he's really good in this role.
Mm-hmm.
Real slimy. Boba doesn't give a crap. Goes right on in. Which the security seems kind of lax, if you ask me, right? This is the mayor of the town, but there's no security to get into that door. Yeah. And the only security is this one door where there are no hired help. There's no security officer. I mean, it's just, what is his name right here? Doobie Brother. He's the only one that you've got to get through in order to get through
your brother called him Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Sons, yeah. So yeah, he makes his way here, and then we get the Mayor Mok Shayez. Okay, so I just want to get this out of the way. So somebody on Twitter posted, this guy Scott, I'm going to give him credit, Scott Ryfun. His name is, he's at RYFUN, Ryfun. He's got some other stuff out there as well, kind of interesting. But he pointed out that if you say Mayor Mok Shayez fast enough, it sounds like Mayor McCheese. And I cannot think, this has got to be something Jon Favreau put in as an Easter egg. It's Mayor McCheese from the dang McDonald's stuff back in the 70s and prior to. If you're an 80s kid, you may remember a little bit of it, but this dude was all the rage back in the 70s and 80s. So
they even had a playground out of his head.
Yeah,
it was bars. Right. It's great.
Yeah, it was really creepy stuff. So yeah, Mayor McCheese. It's got to be. There's no other explanation.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that.
But it was Mok Shayez.
Mok Shayez. It's Mayor McCheese. It is. Okay, so and I love the mayor here, right? He's like just putting them down. And same thing with the Hutts a little bit later. Like no one is acknowledging who he is, right? They're doing everything they can to undermine his authority, undermine his stance, undermine who he is, right? They don't give a crap. And so he says, who is this that enters unannounced? He knows dang well who this is. And Boba Fett even says, you know damn well who, right?
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting though that the mayor says that he did not hire this guy. So I want to get your thoughts because
It's totally cool having him executed, though.
yeah, no, well, I mean,
Wow.
if you kill him, then there's no way this guy can truly confess. At that point, right? He's
Right.
just wiped out the last bit of evidence.
I mean, clearly he was a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was very odd. Where the mayor. I really liked the mayor, by the way. The Ithorian and the way that they did the dialogue and they had the mouth moving and stuff. They really hit and that really did work. I was concerned about how the Ithorian would look with some of the more practical type of effects, but I think this really did work well. Yeah, this is really odd. I mean, it wouldn't call into question. Of course, he starts redirecting Boba to other thing. Other forces are at play here, not not me. And again, the whole putting of him down, then the idea of tribute, right? So he basically pays him an award, and he's a bounty hunter. He's like, I'm not a bounty hunter, right? But at the same time, he's still kind of acting a bit like one, but he doesn't want to be one. But why? Yeah. So what I don't understand. So all right, I'm just gonna shut up.
Okay.
I can't get my thoughts in order here.
Well, I think the question is for anybody that just as a refresher, these guys are not supposed to exist out of Nal Hutta. So Nal Hutta is where the Hutts live. That's their homeworld, right? So they have to be there, and because he's off world and he's in this area, the mayor's like, well, we're going to kill him, so he kills him, and
Right.
he shouldn't be here. I think the question that I had though is whether or not we believe that the mayor hired him,
Right.
and because he makes a pretty strong case at the very end, I think. Maybe he's being deceptive in what he says, but I think he does make a strong case that look, there's no reason for me to have hired this guy because I ultimately report it to you, so it doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that?
Yeah, he's just smacking him in the face. He took his glove off and was challenging him. I still think the mayor. Well, what doesn't make sense though is why they would bring him in, execute him, and then the Hutts show up. Why would the Hutts show up right after they had sent someone to assassinate Boba Fett?
Maybe because they failed and they.
How quickly could they get in though? They following it up? Were they there to claim Jabba's throne at that point? And then they didn't expect to see him there. I mean, it sounds like they were not surprised to see Boba still around, or they were just expecting to. They just took a detour and say, "Well, sounds like he's still alive. Let's just go ahead and go downtown and have a chat with the mayor and Boba right in the middle of the square."
Yeah, I think it's probably more. It's probably that they're all interconnected, right? The mayor is been in cahoots with Bib Fortuna. Bib Fortuna is just kind of, he's a yes man. He was probably reporting up to the Hutts, doing whatever they did. Right? He didn't really have any kind of or wield any power. And the minute Boba killed him, the Hutts immediately get here because they need to reassess or reassert their authority.
Right.
And I think the mayor has been kind of going along with everything else with the Hutts themselves. So it's probably all the same group, at least here, this little trio.
Yeah, I just don't know if I believe that. I mean, the mayor's dirty. Seems like the mayor's dirty. Just like what's her name? What Jennifer Beals character? I'm drawing a blank here.
Madame Garza.
Yeah, Madame Garza. Yeah, Garza Fwip. The last name just cracks me up. Fwip. She's dirty. There's something going on there too. Although she seems like she's under the thumb of someone. I think that'll probably come out later. But there's definitely. I don't know. The mayor is not clean, and he's not just going to sit idly by here.
Yeah. Ash said, changed up the voice to sound a little less like certain someone. I think I saw today Robert Rodriguez came out and said he did the voice. That's his voice, officially.
Not Pedro Pascal. Yeah, Pedro Pascal. It sounded a lot like him in the trailer, is what Ash is referencing there. Yeah.
Yeah, and it does still sound like Pedro Pascal, like when you listen to it. But I think it was today that he said that.
I turned it way up, and I didn't really catch it. It didn't sound like him at all to me, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's certain it's not consistent. I would say that, but there were certain moments in there. Nonetheless, by the way, I like this shot here. Like when he pulls out his blaster, it reminded me of Return of the Jedi when he pulls the blaster out when the thermal detonator is presented to Jabba, right. Which I thought was great. So, let's see. Let's move on. This is where are we here? Oh, so this is that whole scene here at the very end where he's trying to tell them that, like you said, there are other forces at play here. He says that, do you really think that I'm the one that sent the night wind out to you? And then he makes that last comment here. This is the money they give him. Again, I took too many screenshots. But the very last thing he says before he goes out the door is he makes a comment about, running a family is more complicated than bounty hunting, which I thought was very, it's an astute statement, right? He's basically saying, look, this is way more complex and nuanced than you think it is. And he's probably right, right? Boba Fett's coming in thinking, oh, I'm going to be a warlord and I'm just going to rule. And what he doesn't get is the politics that are involved. And the politics are far more reaching than just Tatooine. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
especially if they go to Legends, if they lean on the Legends stuff, the underground isn't at Tatooine. It's not at Coruscant. It is galactic wide. And it's not just, these little individual silos of gangs that are rulers. They're all interconnected. And I think that's what he's trying to explain to him. It's not like bounty. You can't just go in and kill a couple people and suddenly you're the high man of the totem. It's not like that at all. There are other people that are going to challenge you, and there's way more relationships that are established between the different groups. And I think it's also, where is it? It's Fennec Shan makes a comment a little bit later about, hey, you can't just kill them, right? It's like being made in the mafia,
Right.
You have to go get permission from the other rulers and leaders that you want to take somebody out like that, because it's a very balanced, well, can be. I don't know if that is at least in this time frame right now, but it does sound like it's way more complicated than Bobo thinks it to be.
Right. Yeah. And the mayor's proven a point, right? You're out of your league. There's really no reason for you to be in this room or acting like you're acting, because you don't stand a chance. There's so many other things. Again, like you're saying, you don't understand what you've gotten yourself into. And again, I'm going to call you a bounty hunter because you're still thinking really small minded, and you're not playing the game. And that was one of the things that Jabba was really good at. And they were talking about how he ruled with fear before, but that may have been the case, but he was also very savvy about how he was doing. And we saw a lot of this with the comic books and the War of the Bounty Hunter series. I'm sorry I draw back on it so much, but there was a lot of really good things in there where, Jabba always preached patience. He understood where the strengths of everyone was and what parts they could play and which parts he needed to just sit back and observe, because something was going to happen and then he would be able to take action, or some problems would resolve themselves. Right. And I think this is the things that Boba has a very narrow-minded view of how all this is working right now. And he thinks he can just come in. I mean, he didn't tell Bib Fortuna that he was just going to rule him with respect. He just kind of shot him. So again, a little bit of inconsistency in the messages we got here from Boba, but I think this is another example where he's got a lot to learn. And the exchange with the Hutts, I think, was in particular really interesting about why, what else is there. And this whole idea of permission is very interesting. Like, permission from who?
Yeah.
If he wants to go kill him.
I went back to this because Riss says, is the mayor Alfonso?
I wasn't going to bring it up, man, but Cole knows me too well.
That's a deep cut. If you follow the show closely and very closely, you know what we're talking about.
That's right. Alfonso.
I'm not going to give it away. Don't say anything more. Okay. It probably is. I hope it is. Okay. He gets back over to Garsa's sanctuary. She's looking a little uneasy. What does he say? What was it? Looking like on? What's that?
He kind of just strolls in and says, "What's going on here?"
Oh no, I was saying he makes that comment, the analogy of a Gumta on Mustafar, sweating like a Gumta. I'm thinking a Gumta is like a pig, right? You're sweating like a pig. So maybe that's that's what I'm going with. Although weren't those the animals in the Vader comic, or is it just the mounts that we saw? Forget it. It's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. We're looking at this image here of God, what is his name?
Max Rebo?
Yeah, Max Rebo. And so there were some images out there that these creatures, these aren't arms, they're legs. I'm sorry, those are arms. I don't care what people say.
Yeah, those are arms.
Yeah,
I mean, I get they're supposed to be his feet, but whatever. They're arms. The way they're moving,
really that way.
They look like arms. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
This looks like Rush, right? You got Neil Peart in the background,
right.
Geddy Lee playing the keyboards, and then Alec Lifeson on the guitar on the right there.
No one knows what you're talking about.
No, nobody knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so they hear the drums coming, and everything kind of just comes to a halt, which is very.
She's like, "Wow, it's going from bad to worse."
Yeah,
but she looks like she knew they were coming, though.
Yeah, well, I think she's in an awkward position, right? Just the day before or whenever it was, she was like, "Oh, we're so glad you're the new person in town," and blah, blah. She probably got news that the Hutts came in and said, "Hey, we're now in charge here, and don't pay attention to him, don't listen to him." I mean, she's probably worried for her own safety at this point that she's put herself in alliance already with this guy, and now the Hutts are coming in, and she doesn't know this guy as much as the Hutts and knows what they're capable of doing. So yeah, I would imagine she's a little on edge right now about where her allegiance should be. Like she's like, the minute he comes in, she's like, "Hey, why don't we get you a drink? Thanks for coming in. We'll get you a drink. Come on over here." Right, trying to get him out of there. She knows it's happening. Maybe she was aware that their visit was imminent. But
Right. So do you think that she was in cahoots with what we had in the last chapter? There's a lot of speculation. A lot of people were talking online, of course, about filling the hat with coins or the helmet with coins, and so he wouldn't be able to use all of the tools at his disposal. I don't know that it would have mattered a whole lot, but do you subscribe to that theory, or is this more of a no? She was really just trying to just kind of bow and accept the just play it easy and just play it slow and say, okay, we'll just accept how things are and we'll see how this plays out. Or was she really working with someone else in order to make a point and try to get rid of him?
I mean, I like the theory that they filled the helmets up with coins on purpose.
Yeah,
they could have easily put him in a bag and gave him the bag, right?
Right.
But it's hard to say for me because part of me thinks that's the case. Part of me says that she was being honest. Part of me thinks that there could be a third person involved here as well. We just don't know enough about her right now to kind of make a really good call on where her allegiance or alliance is. I mean, I think first and foremost, she's more interested in whoever's going to protect her and her establishment, right? That's the most important thing. And she seems like a character that's just going to kind of jump around and, you're the new boss. Okay. Hey, what do you need? Right. So yeah, I think the verdict's still out on where her allegiance really truly lies, other than to her establishment and probably her people at this point.
Right.
Okay. So we get to the outside here. And yeah, so they show up, the twins. These guys were disgusting. And and I know you mentioned the CGI. It does, now that you look at it, and at least when I look at it closely now, it does look way more like the CGI from A New Hope. I'm trying to think of Phantom Menace when they did that, how well that looked, or if it was closer to
It was probably kind of like this too, because Phantom Menace was 99, so it was all more or less using the same technology.
I mean, it's I'm trying to think, when have they done CGI on a hut that's actually looked good? It seems like it's just really difficult to do because it's just a bunch of flesh and you've got to animate all that plus the textures and.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's lighting and textures usually kind of mess it up. What do you think about the sponge pet that he had?
Oh, the little rat guy that he was using.
I laughed so hard at that one.
Yeah,
I was like, that's perfect.
Well, it's funny too. If you watch the rat, he's like squirming and all that. At one point, when he finally it's free, he bites the finger of the hut there. He bites his hand, and then he finally kind of tosses him off to the side. So, but yeah, I mean, it's I think I got a picture of that in here as well somewhere, but we'll get to that here in a second. So, and these guys are basically coming in and saying, look, Jabba was in power. We're his cousins. It's a next of kin kind of thing. This should really have been passed on to us. Thank you, but no thanks. Be on your way kind of thing. Which doesn't explain Bib Fortuna, but again, in my headcanon, Bib Fortuna has just been working for these guys, or he's just been a person that they could trust to kind of
he has no spine, so he's easily manipulative.
Oh, exactly right.
Yeah,
right. So that would make sense that now that he's gone, that these guys are kind of coming in here. And then of course, we get they're talking about, here's the paperwork. There's the mole. You see the mole?
I don't think that's a mole.
I think it's a mole. Very
deliberate.
It's a mole.
Because he's got a tattoo in that same place.
Well, it's not a tattoo, and it is like there's some dimension to it. All right, we're going to break this down. So the next 10 minutes will be dedicated to this mole and whether or not it's real. It looks like a mole to me.
No.
Let's talk about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, even like right in the shot, I was like,
I just knew who he was. Yeah.
I didn't know. No, I'd be honest. I didn't know. Not until he came until the next shot. I just thought it was like somebody with like really dark hair, but it didn't. I was not thinking again ever that we would see this. Like I kept saying to myself, I can't believe I'm seeing him on the screen.
I didn't either. But as soon as I saw it, I knew the armor and I knew the braid. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I literally just yelled, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, here he is. And I don't know who they got to play him, but the looks are really great. So hopefully it's they're not doing fancy things with cameras to make him look taller than he is, but he's supposed to be towering, like
he's
a
huge
massive Wookiee. Yeah.
I think
because
he has been enhanced, I believe, hasn't he?
Like augmented in some way.
Yeah, I think so. Some sort
I
of
can't remember if
experiment. Yeah, because he's been tortured and stuff like that. He's got a bit of a past.
Yes.
But yeah, man, that is one. I hope we get to see more of him. I hope this wasn't just a cameo.
So this is Black Chrysanthemum, and he is for anybody that doesn't know, he was a Wookiee that was I guess exiled from Kashyyyk. He was not a good person. He left. He ended up being found by the brothers. I can't remember what their names were. And you're probably closer to this than I am, but he ended up being like fighting gladiator. He was a gladiator.
That's why Boba Fett calls him a gladiator.
Yeah, and he's got history with Dr. Aphra. He and Boba did some work, I think, for who was that? Was it Aphra or Vader?
I think it was for Vader.
Yeah, but
yeah, and then the whole God, what was that weird Screaming Citadel series was wicked.
Yeah, so that's why I think like this scene right where is it? A little bit later when they're kind of looking at it. If you go watch this scene again, I don't think I've got a screenshot of it, but if you watch this scene again, the way they look at each other looks like they've got a history. Like, crap, I know who this is, right? And that's why Boba Fett says, "Oh, you can all the gladiators in the world, or you can bring all the gladiators you want." He knows the history of this guy because they've done jobs together. I wouldn't say many,
right,
but they've done jobs together. So it's unfortunate because I think for my recollection is they did have a mutual respect at the time, and now they're on opposing ends here. So one of two things I think is going to go. This could go one of two ways. I would. How do you feel about seeing him as an antagonist and going up against Boba Fett, going up against Fennec Shand, or do you want? Would you be happy to see him at some point convert or go over to Boba's side, right? Or he gets in his head and says, "Hey, come over to me. I'm now the ruler." Whatever. Do you think that would be cool? Because I would like to see Boba Fett start building his little entourage of people. And why the hell not this guy? Because he's so freaking cool.
No, I want him to be an antagonist. I want him to be the hired muscle that just is relentless and will not let Boba sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because when you think about it, who is intimidating enough to Boba Fett when they tell him to sleep lightly? Bounty hunter, it's I don't, I mean, what else would intimidate Boba Fett? And I'm sorry, Boba is very confident about what he can do, but there's got to be at least a small piece of him that's like, I'd rather not.
Yeah.
If we could avoid this.
So we were talking about who would kill him. I was saying it would be her.
That's can't take him down with one shot.
No, I just meant like in some way, not necessarily by shooting him, but in some way. Like if you had to pick a character that is ultimately going to end his life, I would like to see Fennec Shand do it. Right? She's supposed to be the badass assassin and all that, and yeah, she had problems with Cad Bane, but that really wasn't fair. But yeah, not Boba Fett. I can't see Boba fighting him unless he's got all his tools at his disposal, and that kind of gives him the upper edge.
Right?
I don't know, we're kind of getting into weird fanboy stuff about who's better than. Well, Boba Fett could really, I don't want to get into all that, but
we'd have to get the action figures out.
Exactly. Start pitting them up against each other. All right. So, all right, let's wrap this scene up because it was honestly really great. And then it ends with the Hutt saying, "Look, we're not gonna go to war here, even though the crazy psycho,
we're not gonna do it here at least.
Yeah, we're not gonna do it here. It'd be bad for business." Which is right there. Bloodshed is bad for business. And then he tells him to sleep lightly, bounty hunter. And again, he takes that last little cheap shot at him and calls him a bounty hunter, even though he's trying to establish himself as the new leader here in Tatooine. So
right.
This isn't the last that we've seen of any of them, which is exciting. Where my concerns are is that, again, like we talked about, I want more present time now, especially now that we have this. I want to say, okay, give me this story now. I'm cool with the Tusken stuff, and that was really awesome. And I'd be down with flashbacks to kind of get us up to speed on where some of the other holes are, but this is really where I want to see the next 5 episodes go.
Yeah, I mean, and the unfortunate part is that this scene really just basically ends the current, the current timeline. it was very, there wasn't a lot of satisfaction to where that it was leading to something or what, where we go from here next.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the part that's leaving a little bit of a, maybe not a bitter taste, but just a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth of like, okay, can we please just complete a story and give us something that's actually looking forward to the next chapter in the current timeline? Because really, it's a little too slow at this point.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's get some of the thoughts here. Makes Chewie look like an Ewok. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's much bigger than Chewie. I think we've seen the comparison already somewhere. I've seen a couple of those now. Tuan says this is the Wookiees version of The Rock.
Actually, Cole's Risk Bayless has got a great one too. He looks like an NFL Blitz character.
Oh, if you've ever, yeah,
Cole gets me. NFL Blitz 99. He does.
If you've ever played that game.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Alex says he's going to go up against the Tusken Raider leader. Him being Black K going up against the Tusken Raider. We'll get to that too, because I do have a theory around the Tusken Raiders and how they play into all this at some point. Which is not my It's not my own thing. It's actually being pulled from the Empire's End stuff. So, and then he also says, "Hey, I hope they join forces." So again, I would like to see them join forces at some point. Maybe at the very end of all this, when the dust settles and he's still around. Why not?
Right.
He's for hire.
They nod to each other because Boba likes to nod a lot.
He does nod a lot.
He's very good at it.
Well, it's all part of the. Oh, here's the look.
Yeah.
This look right here. I mean, good Lord, look at his eyes. Here,
Yeah.
let me give you the dramatic effect. There you go.
Mm.
Get us out of the screen and put him on there. So, and then this look from her is also very priceless. So Fennec looking over at him, saying this is, basically saying this is not going to go well. And I threw this shot up as well because I'm calling this the Nook of Boba Fett. So there, you're welcome. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That ends the present. Let's get into the past. We start with the training here. With the gaffy sticks. This whole sequence was really good. I mean, and again, there's some very cliche tropes being played out here. It's fine. We've seen this a million times, and name any kind of movie where someone's getting trained to fight with a stick. They've got to, or combat in some way, right? I don't know what that was. I like the fact that she slapped him on the head,
Right.
and he looks like freaked out by it. Like, wow, like he's never been treated this way, or at least not recently that someone has done that. And then they spend a lot of time on these particular stances, which I imagine at some point is going to pay off, right? They really spent a lot of time on the way he was holding that gaffy stick. So my guess is that will happen at some point. Again, so look, some of these
at the
shots
end of the
are
episode.
great. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like this shot too, especially the dog. The Mastiff sitting there scratching his ear. Was really good stuff. And yeah, we get to the train, the first sequence of the train. And this was so there were, again, this is playing off of Lawrence Arabia. I know there's a historic precedence out there where 1800s or so, I forget what time frame it was, but they would send trains through America, and you could pay money to put a rifle outside and shoot Native Americans. Like that was a thing. And that's not what they're doing here, but it reminded me of that, right? These guys are the Pikes that are on the train, and they are shipping spice which they really shouldn't be doing. I mean, I guess now they shouldn't be shipping spice without.
It's medicinal.
It's not.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be doing this unless they have cleared it with whoever's in charge. Right? They and again, this is legend stuff, so I can't say it's canon, but they would have to go clear it with like a Jabba the Hutt, right? If they're going to bring spice in there, he has to be a part, know about it, get some kind of cut, that sort of thing. But they're just running spice left and right now because there's really nobody in ruling power. And so, they see, and we learn this a little bit later, that the Tusken Raiders they think them to be savages, and it's more nuanced than that. And so partly it's to defend themselves, but I don't know who started what here. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Are they shooting them just to shoot them? Are they shooting them as a proactive defensive measure? Or did the Tusken Raiders take the first shots, and ever since then, as this train passes through, they're the ones that are trying to, they started it, I guess. Well,
throughout our Star Wars viewing history, we've known a few Tuskens to take pot shots at various things. It's happened once or twice, I've heard. But I mean, this is a thing. I mean, it's hard to tell because the Tuskens are, while maybe not savage in kind of the way that the Pikes we're talking about here, but they definitely they're opportunists, and they're going to go and take shots at things that they might be able to get. And sometimes they just shoot at kids in a pod racer for fun,
Yeah.
and so they got to kill the time somehow out on the desert. But so I think to me, it was probably more legit protection of their property, of what they were doing. But at the same time, you have a train going really, really fast, and these guys have absolutely no way of inhibiting this thing from going where they need to go. And it's so armored, like what are they gonna hit it with on a rifle? So
Well,
that's
they hit
the
the
part.
people.
Yeah, but just roll the windows up.
No, I know. I get what you're saying. It's like,
I mean,
why make yourself a target, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. I mean, I just didn't expect it though. But I don't know. It makes for more exciting television.
It says, got a comment that says they seemed like they weren't expecting the train to start shooting them, though. Made me think this is the first time that it happened.
Oh, they seem to know right away that bad stuff was about to go on. And we see this the second time. So not to be argumentative about the second time that the train goes by, though, they still don't do enough to hide. They still act like they're confused as to what to do. And so it wouldn't surprise me though if the Pikes just saw things and they started attacking, because it's not like that you can put anything above them. They're not above wiping out something that seems threatening to them in the first place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and again, both sides are probably doing something. There's not one side isn't more altruistic than the other.
I mean, yeah, and I don't want to sit here and spend a lot more time on this, but the other part that's got me wondering too is like, why have they set up camp here, right? If this is a trade route and they get popped at and they're like right in range, why wouldn't you say after the first time, hey, maybe we should move our camp back, a mile or so that this doesn't happen again? So
yeah, but that didn't work for the Native Americans though either, right? I mean,
yeah,
this
is a flat kind of area though. You know what I'm saying? Like they're coming through, they have to come through. If you go back further into the bigger dunes, I don't know, maybe this train does go over those bigger dunes. I don't know. Right. This is probably not the stuff we should be spending that much time.
I thought this is the stuff we did spend time on.
It is true. Yeah, this is stuff we spent time on. Okay, so let's go through here just quickly. Again, we're seeing a different side of Boba Fett because he's picking up the kids. And
are those kids? Those are adults.
Maybe adults. I thought they were kids.
No, those are adults.
I had it in my notes that they were kids, but maybe not. Either way,
he's ushering people off to
protect them.
Right.
And again, a lot of people are really upset. This is not what Boba Fett would do. He would, take care of himself first and all that. But we'll get to that here a little bit later. This poor sap right here gets it right in the chest. That was a nice little shot there on the right hand side there. Yeah, and just more. We're just showing more pictures here of the train going by. 2 banthas died in this episode, which I'm really upset about.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah,
this one
went
over,
down.
Man.
Yeah, they just fall over like nothing. So, yeah. So, okay, and then we get to the aftermath, which I thought was a very poignant moment, given that they're burning their bodies. That's all stuff that we've seen before with the Jawas and the funeral pyre for Vader and on and on and on. But this shot in particular definitely reminded me of Anakin walking back with his mom, with Shmi,
right.
After the Raiders had done it. So it's almost kind of like an inverse kind of imagery here of what was going on. That you've got somebody who's carrying a Raider after they died.
I found it very interesting that they allowed him to carry the body of a Raider. I mean, I know they took it before they threw the person onto the pyre, but it was interesting that they allowed him to be the one to carry the body. You would think that they'd be very protective of that kind of thing, but I think that also shows the place that Boba, and where Boba has been accepted into the tribe on at a very fundamental level at this point. It doesn't seem like anybody really has a problem with him being there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, and it's funny too. Like, it's as serious or as poignant as this moment is. Like, once he hands the body over to the 2 Tusken Raiders, they just turn around and pitch it right on the fire, like no big deal.
Right.
So I thought I got a chuckle out of that, but I get it. They didn't have to. They weren't going to lay it down on a fire. If you've ever been there close to this big of a fire, it's pretty hot. You want to get out of there, especially if you're wearing long draping robe. Right? You don't want to
everything flammable.
Flammable. 100% cotton. Cotton burns really, really well. Okay, and this is where Boba then sees the biker gang going by, which gives him the idea of, hey, I'll tell you what. So he goes and meets with the chief and says, look, I'll be back in the morning, and he's basically going to give what does he tells him? He's going to go a way to stop the long speeder. I thought that was a cool way to describe the train itself.
That's what the chief calls it. Yeah. Yeah.
So then he heads out to Tashi Station.
It's not Josh.
It is Tashi Station. No, I'm not even. This is not even a joke. It's been confirmed, and I've got pictures to show you. So what they did is they went back. So if you know, if you go back and watch
it seems a lot smaller than I remember.
Well, sort of, because this is the only exterior shot we get, and it's hard to see how far back it goes here, especially on this terrible screenshot that I have. But the interior definitely looks like it. And I've got footage in here to show you so we can do a comparison of this stuff.
Okay.
As well. But they went back to the old footage. So for anybody that doesn't remember, doesn't recall, doesn't know, there was a scene where Luke went to Tashi Station and he met up with Biggs and Cammy and Fixer, and they were talking about it. And then he takes the macro binoculars and he's kind of looking up in the sky and he can see the very opening sequence that we know of from episode 4, when the Imperial Star Destroyer is after the Tantive 4. And so there's a whole thing that's going on there. But prior to that happening, they actually goes into this little bar kind of restaurant area. I think they sell paninis or something. I'm kidding. I don't know if that's really
cappuccinos. Come on.
Cappuccinos, yeah. But there's a scene there where he goes in there and Fixer and Cammy's on his lap because they're a thing. And for anybody that doesn't know, Cammy was actually Luke Skywalker's girlfriend at one point. And furthermore, we covered this, in when we covered the Last Jedi book, the novelization. There's a dream sequence that he has where he feels he has a dream that he's not lived the life that he thought he has, and that he actually went and married Cammy and had a family and a life, and it was kind of a really interesting moment that I never thought we'd get, but we get to finally see her here in a little bit. So, with that said, this is the character here that plays Fixer. He's been in other stuff. I didn't get a chance to go look to see what I've seen him in, but he does look very, very familiar to me.
Right.
And then this is Cammy here. So this is Luke's ex's girlfriend at some point. Okay, so this is here's the old footage, right? So this is from 1977 or whatever. There's Cammy here. You can see Fixer in the middle. There's Biggs Darklighter from we didn't see him they brought him back in this special editions, didn't they? They added that one scene.
Yeah, they added a scene. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the entrance. So if you look on the right hand side, there's these things here where they've got all the whatever it is. There's 4 cubibles, I guess, and there's probably more than that. But you've got this little round thing here, the door with the sequence here. If you can see that, this is Luke coming in, and later on, let me just fast forward. When Boba Fett comes in, you can see the same thing. So here are the 4 things that go back this way. And I didn't get all the screenshots. Go back and watch it. I mean, there's more on here. Here's that round thing, and you can see they even went so far as to give the detail on the interior of that door frame right there. So let me go back because I do want to just kind of point out a couple more things. So this is where she picks up the binoculars and she's looking up into the sky. So he comes in. He sees Biggs. He's wearing that goofy-looking Gilligan's Island hat.
Right.
And then in the background here, you can see the ships. So it looks like they've been docked here under this port area in the background. This does make it as well into the episode. And then in the bottom left-hand corner here of this scene, you can see these 2 guys in front of this little, it's like a video game system. It's like a table video game system, right? And they're doing things and they're playing, they're having a good time. And you can see some lights. I try to get the best picture I could. You can see some lights there that are moving back and forth. Well, they went so far as to replicate this in this episode. It's the same dang thing. Look, there's all the little lights with the red. They even have this little line, the way it squiggles through space.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys are playing a video game because I think at one point one's cheering that they did it or that he won or something. So
this is in the subtitles too. Yeah.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then this is I guess another just picture to show Cammy and Fixer. But really, what's going on here? I guess the more intriguing part of it is he keeps saying it's not right. Right. That we see the biker gang in here, the JJ biker gang. They're being total jerks and what you would stereotypical biker people, right? We all know these kind. I'm just kidding. I know a lot of bikers that are not like that, but these are the bad boys, and he keeps saying it's not right. And I didn't really put too much thought into it. I figured they'd explain it later. I don't know if it's just not right because they're in there and roughing up the place and they shouldn't be there or what. But did you or anybody in our chat have any theories as to what was not right about what Fixer was saying here?
I think I took it more of as them coming in and just owning the place and taking it over and being disrespectful and everything else. I mean, anytime you see that kind of behavior, it just rubs you the wrong way. And I guess he's very compelled about right and wrong. But whatever it is, it's just kind of, I mean, they also, disrespect him too and come over and grab a bowl of chips and, drink his drink. And so, I mean, I would think that it was pretty not right too. I don't think I would have said anything like that. These guys are big and ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to put the word Tatooine on their jacket. That makes them pretty mean.
Yeah, Alex says these two never left Tatooine. That's kind of sad, actually, that they never got off world.
Yeah, but that was kind of the thing, though. And then some of the books we saw, Cammy didn't want to leave Tatooine.
Yeah, well, even Luke said it. Like he knew that if he didn't get off that planet, that was going to be his life.
Yeah,
and that's a very it's very reminiscent of small town life, right? If you grow up in a small town, you're dying to get out of there because there's a clock that's ticking, and it's only a matter of time before you get sucked into a position or something really bad happens, and you have no way. You don't feel like you have a way to get out at that point. You're just kind of trapped, and you become part of the same lifestyle that you didn't want to live, right?
Right.
That's all very, very real. This is Boba coming through, or at least in shadow, which I thought was a great shot.
Yeah, it was. What'd that remind you of?
Maybe Terminator.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's so many movies. There's a lot of movies that do this though with the shadow. Yeah.
Where he comes in and the guy's kind of he's going to break up something. I mean, it's again another cliche kind of thing, but all seems very familiar. And of course, this bar fight breaks out. And I
love that he breaks his rifle.
Yeah, he smashes this guy over the head several times with the butt of the rifle and breaks it in half. He's a very physical actor, and I really enjoy that about him. Like, he's got some crazy looking eyes in most of the fight sequences. This one, you can see his eyes right here.
Right.
But I think it's a very unique talent that he brings to the character. We'll get to the better picture here, but you can see the biker's jacket. So it does say Tatooine here, and I don't know if you can tell on this screenshot. Probably not. I guess
there's something down there now.
It's really blurry, but down, if you pause it, you can see, and my Orbesh translation is not very good, but it does not say Tatooine. No. There's something else that it says down there. Somebody go find it and translate it for us if you can. But interesting, the logo is when I saw this at first, I think I texted you or we were talking about it, and I said, "Hey, I think it's a baby Yoda, like a Yoda species on the back of their things." And if you look at it this way, it looks like there's two ears,
right,
kind of coming out here. And it turns out this whole thing actually looks like a skeleton, like a Rancor skeleton. We'll get to a better picture of it here in just a little bit. So I just say that because it is very interesting. I want to know what their name is and what that picture really is. So. In my show notes, I put Wolfman has nards because it's a Monster Squad quote that only probably Alex in the chat will know. But that is, this looks like it hurts, like a lot. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. That's all we're going to say about that one. Just more pictures of him doing all that. So he eventually beats the crap out of him. And then he has his one drink. It's very Han Solo, sorry about the mess kind of thing. As he just
didn't even pay him.
Well, he did pay him. He got these thugs all riled up. So when they wake up, they're going to kill them all.
Right. Yeah.
No,
destroyed his property.
Yep. Let's see. Letterer 71 says Boba takes out the entire Tatooine Sons of Anarchy unit like butter, all in his cotton jammers, no armor, only his stick and a broken rifle. That's badass. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, and there's my brother chiming in. Man, you're old, Albert. These references, I know. Most of these have been 80s references, so that tells you a lot right there.
Yes.
Okay, so we get out here. There's the logo. This is the one that we were talking about last week, where the J from now Hutta, which, by the way, no, I'm not going to get
Jedi. Kind of looks like Jedi Outcast.
There was another Star Wars outlet that took my picture and had it out there and was talking about it and didn't give me credit, but I'm not sour about it.
Yeah, not cool.
Okay, and we're not going to talk anymore about that. So here is, and this was a great shot. Like, I love these establishing shots like this, right? She gives us these wide angle shots to kind of set the tone, rather than just kind of jumping in. But he comes back with the bikes. I thought this was funny as all get out because the first thing the Tusken Raiders do is they go try to trash it like they did with Luke's speeder bike, right? They're looking for certain components, certain parts, whatever they do. But the funniest part about this, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, but he goes through and he tells everybody, stop, stop, stop. Don't do this. Don't do this. He's trying to get them to stop. Everybody comes to a complete stop, except for one guy who about a half a second later just very nonchalantly throws that last piece. Like he couldn't resist. He had it in his hand. He had to chuck it. Go back and watch it. It's freaking hilarious. He just very kind of like throws away like, oh, don't look at this. I'm getting rid of it kind of thing.
Right.
But I thought this was a funny sequence just because of kind of the throwback and callback to the sand speeder there. This is where he's telling the chief, hey, we're going to use these to stop the train to Tonka.
Right.
And I really like this chief. Like, I hope we get more of him.
He's a great actor.
He is.
He just stands there stoically all the time.
He nods. He nods. He looks around.
He did usher the little baby or Tusk kid. He did usher him forward the other day.
Yeah. He gets the most. He's the most versatile when we get to the very end when he jump, which is my favorite part. Honestly, I think of the whole episode was when he jumps into the dance.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly and it sounds kind of cheesy, but there was just something about that moment because up until then, he's been like this. He has given Boba Fett nothing. And he's like one of the last people I'm taking all my show notes here. He's one of the last people to jump in, which was the kind of the final piece that he needed for acceptance into the tribe. So it was a good moment. There's been so many of these memes now with the Bantha ride, where he's kind of going back and forth. Yeah, and a lot of comments about his teeth, but yeah.
I wonder if this is where the Knights of Ren decided to become a boy band. They saw the motions, like, you know what, we could probably put a rocking group together.
Oh my goodness, look at you. This is another, and so this begins the montage sequences of him training the sand people to ride the bikes, which I really loved.
Because it was a montage, or because
it was a montage.
Okay.
But this is again another trope, very cliche. But I really love the fact that he needed a volunteer, and these two guys are looking at each other, and she just gives go watch the look again. She gives him a look like, you're going first. I'm not doing this, and he's like, I guess so. And then we get him going in reverse, which is again, wasn't it the wasn't there an Ewok that did that on Return of the Jedi? So. Yeah, not as easy.
He didn't go back, but he flew off, and
maybe
he stole the bike from
the. He stole the bike. Yeah, right. That's what I thought of. But yeah, I did like the whole montage sequence, and then they just kind of. I love the fact that she just kind of holds on the shot after that sand person just takes off backwards, and they're just staring at him like, well, he's gone.
Right.
Again, more these aerial shots. There's one later on with the Banthas that just comes out of nowhere. That's very surprising and refreshing. Given it kind of breaks up the what's going on. Here's a couple of scenes here where they're talking about the he's training them how to ride the bikes. He gives them that little mirror or whatever to kind of be the signal, which I didn't really understand the signaling piece of it.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. I mean, I guess it's to give him something to do, right, from a narrative perspective. But
I mean, he was signaling the snipers, I guess, to come off the ridge.
But they had macro binoculars, so they could see the train. Like, what I mean? Like,
it didn't really make sense. But yeah,
I know this is what we do. We nitpick stuff like that. But I'm sure there was a reason. It's in the script and not in front of our eyes.
There's the chief.
Yeah.
Getting a ride.
Chief got a ride, and then he really punches it for the chief, right, to really kind of show off how fast.
See how fast the actual train is going.
Yep.
You can see it says Tatooine there on the side of the bike too. Again, their originality
down here at the bottom.
knows no bounds. Watch it say like Sons of Tatooine or something stupid like that.
Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be something? M Letter 71 says like a scene in the movie Easy Rider when they're riding the motorcycle down the road. Yeah, there's that one. See, now I'm not the only one calling out older movies here, so which is really great. This was very Back to the Future for me, where the car goes by and they kind of look as it zips by.
Oh, I had a ZZ Top.
ZZ Top. I was going to say I was expecting them to kind of point there at the very end. That would have been classic and really dumb. Oh look. I just noticed the K on the side of the bike for the first time. Wait a minute. You said you watched the last episode. How did you not? Okay. Look at the youngins, old people. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
Um, and this was kind of like again, in every montage, in every 80s montage, there's always one thing that somebody can't do. And you get to see the progression until they finally pull it off, right? And you're like, yes, they did it. And we get that moment where the trainer is like, oh, they finally pulled it off, and we got that whole moment here, which plays out a little bit later, right? Because when they've got to be able to board and jump off these bikes to get to the train, so this is kind of why this was important for them. But good stuff.
Yep.
Okay,
Hoe and sand, it's great.
well, so to me, this is a Spaceballs reference. You remember in Spaceballs?
Yeah,
where
they're raking the desert.
Where he's got to comb the desert, and you've got
the desert.
Yeah, he's like, you found anything? Nope. You found anything? Nope. And it's about you. And then, two black people have the pick, which is not probably appropriate these days, but at the time. And so I don't know if this was really what they were going for, but it feels like they were combing the desert. Now, I get what they're doing. They're looking for the black melons in the ground with the milk and all that. And earlier on, I think they show another person who's just kind of dragging a rake across, which very lightly. So it sounds like, I don't know if it's a Zen garden or whatever else. But then they've got other Tusken Raiders who are kind of like using their hands to dig for those black melons. I'm sure that's part of it, but I couldn't help but think of Spaceballs when I saw this scene. So,
there's another 80s reference for you.
Yep, another 80s reference. They've got to be, because it's Jon Favreau. He's like not much older than I am, and he watched all the same dang movies that I did. So, here's she putting her hand out, which I thought was great, because if you think about the progression of the training, earlier on she was very standoffish, and
she was very hard on him too.
Very hard on him, yeah. And this is a moment where he kind of falls on his back, and she actually, extends a hand to kind of pick him back up, which I thought was really great.
Right, but again, I think it also speaks to the progression of how meticulous he was with learning there was a time we thought was more of a fighting style, and the reason why it was so important to get those moves exactly right. And so I think that was, again, gesture of respect as well, that he put the work in and put the time and put the effort in, and that, while she still bested him, he's getting better, and it was kind of that recognition that he's been maybe looking for.
Yeah. And then here,
regulators mount up. Another ratings reference for you.
It was great. This I love this moment, because he, everybody's ready to go. He puts his fist up. They all look at him. They put their fists up. Like they are fully vested in his plan and trusting in him to help them on this moment, which is all great. But really, the thing to take away, I think, for me, is that logo. So you can see it here now in pretty clear daylight. And this image is not going to do justice. If you pause it here, you can see it. But what it looks like to me is a Rancor skeleton that's holding like a mallet of some sort. I don't really understand what this little thing is here that it's holding.
And you see on the other bike on the left, you get a little bigger there too.
It's like a hammer or something.
Although that one almost looks like more ears, but yeah, you have to kind of change your perspective of how you look at it.
Yep. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Mystery solved. This is the one where
this is the one that did not look good.
Yeah, didn't look that great. But again, very minor in the grand scheme of things. But this is what we do. More shots of them. These guys sticking their head out to become targets on the train itself. There's that second poor bantha that just falls over, and these poor saps didn't even last 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So we're in this whole sequence now where the train's coming, they're attacking it. Here's Tusk Kid in his little mirror signaling for what reason we don't know. And I think somebody said it earlier, but my goodness, these guys, I mean, look how far away these dunes are, and they're firing these rifles out. Dude.
Dead shots. Yeah.
On a train moving that fast. You know what I mean? Like, the time is amazing.
We've seen them do it on pod, in
Phantom
Menace. Yeah. Yeah, they're good at this stuff.
So, cool stuff. Here's just more shots now of them boarding the train using their little hooks to get on top there. Had an action sequence here where that his speeder gets shot, jumps off at the last minute before it blows up, and then running on top of the train.
Right.
Which is all good stuff here. Again, I'm just showing pictures here of this stuff. What did you think of the sequence overall, though? I'll kind of keep going through this, but I mean, you compare this to like other train sequences, or maybe the one that we're probably more familiar with in Star Wars, the train sequence in Solo. Like, how would you compare the two? And I'll flick through some of these pictures while you're talking here.
Yeah, I mean, it had this was definitely, it felt like a longer sequence. There was a more, dynamic of a sequence and a few more comical things. But I mean, yeah, definitely with the tops of the train lids coming out, or the hatches hiding behind them, felt very reminiscent of it. Just in general, some of like the shot here with the warrior coming across, very reminiscent of Enfys Nest, zooming across. So there's definitely some homage to some of those scenes, but I thought overall it was entertaining though. I mean, it kind of gave you the impression that this is a pretty limitless supply of pikes that were able to pop out and do this until, our favorite warrior gets in the action. And honestly, I laughed when she got involved, because not only she just jump in through the window, and then people start disappearing by falling, just getting yanked down.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And I've got some pictures of that.
And then she peeks her head up. I couldn't help but laugh. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, and like, how cool is this? Like, she rams the speeder bike into it to jump off, and which then actually blows up, right? And it separates the train. Like, the train splits in half at this point. This part falls behind, and they've got half of the train, and then we get to this little screwball guy, the conductor, which
kind of a jerk face.
He is, but look at his.
He's got a
microphone for his chin, I guess, or his. What do they call those things in Star Wars? Vocalators or vocators or boxers? I can't remember. They've got a name. They've got a name that's used consistently in Star Wars.
Vocabilizers? No. Yeah, something.
Somebody will say we're stupid and tell us later. Yeah. So the question came up: was that a brand new droid?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen this one.
No, I don't think we've seen it either. I was calling him Baby Grievous because at the very end there, when he pops out and scuttles away like a tarantula or spider, that's what it reminded me of. But
I love how like true to a steam engine that they got though, with the twirling of I mean it's probably a little bit later on.
I don't think I've got pictures of that, but you're right. I didn't think about that.
Just like all the different things, the switches and the levers and everything. It was just really cool to see all of that stuff, because that really, a lot of that stuff was in a steam engine locomotive.
Mm-hmm. This poor Pike right here is the one that flies out once she gets in there. Like, she pokes her head, she jumps through that window, and then like half a second later, this guy goes flying out the window, which is great. And then you can't really tell here, but I was trying to, you just have to watch it. But this is the sequence here where she's going through. And again, this is all, the directing was this stuff. It was just so perfect. Like, the way she was panning across and she was following the action, you could definitely tell what was going on, that she was just cutting through these guys left and right. It was great. And then this was like one of my favorite shots, where she just pops up and she's looking around like, hey guys. Yeah. And then she realizes, oh crap, there's fire behind me. She pops back down. The next thing you know, the guy on the left disappears, or on the right disappears or whatever. And then the left goes, you see the gaffy stick come up and just kind of yank him down like a hook within all of about 3 seconds. So, I mean, she's just so dang cool. I love this shot a lot.
Yeah, this is cool.
This is another great image. When this poor sand person gets blasted by the conductor.
Yeah, the engine. Yeah.
Yeah, turn it up to 11. I think he's doing something. It says boost down there. He's trying to hit the
turbo boost
faster. Yeah.
Here's your bantha shot.
Yeah, the bantha shot. And again, I like it because it doesn't. It's filmed that it doesn't pull. With all the action that's going on, it doesn't pull you out, but it gives you perspective. It gives you more of. They don't have to do this, right? Directors don't have to do this stuff.
You see the whole train is intact here though, so that's why I didn't think that the leader actually destroyed it.
Yeah, if you go, so I don't have a picture of it. It is definitely separated.
Okay.
There is a shot where it is, and I didn't have it on there. Like, this whole part blows up, and you see that other part fall to the ground, and it gets left behind.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe this is just an editing thing where they didn't account for it. And then you got more of Tamura Morrison, Boba Fett. Finally breaking through the glass. Yeah, interrogating the droid.
Yeah, and there we go, Baby Grievous.
Baby Grievous. This is so creepy. Like, I don't know what it is about him and Grievous, the way they just crawl off like that. But who the heck thinks to make droids up like that? The symbolism of the old stopping the new, right? He's got an old stick that he's using to stop the high technological train that it is. I thought the CGI was great here too when it
It was
hits.
the sand effects and the
Yes.
particle effects were really, really good.
I mean,
Really good.
yeah, it was. It reminded me of the same stuff that we saw in the Mandalorian with the Crate Dragon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
but
that same.
you know what it reminded me of though was Independence Day. Like
Oh
when
yeah,
the ship
yeah.
crashes,
Yep,
it reminded me of that.
yep. I was thinking another happy landing. You know,
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Kenobi.
that too. Yeah, kind of.
So eventually, it all kind of comes to a screeching halt, and I think I did like this too. Like they've already got this stuff set up. It looks like he's sitting on a throne of
Right.
stuff. And I love the fact that she's standing like right here behind him, right? I mean, it feels like this is kind of like his domain, even though it's just stuff that came off the train. Um, and this is where he confronts the Pikes. And so the Pikes, we've talked about the Pikes quite a bit. For anybody who doesn't know, they are notorious for dealing in spice, which is the drug of Star Wars or a drug of Star Wars. We've seen them. Oh man, we saw them in Solo. We saw them in Clone Wars.
Yep.
Trying to think where else we saw them. We saw them several times in the Clone Wars. They came up again in season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Yep.
But yeah, here's where we learned. Boba is kind of keen on the fact that they're likely stealing or trying to ship spice, and leave it up to these two, Laurel and Hardy,
What
who
does
are walking
spice
here.
even look like?
Well, it looks like that now. I mean,
Right.
looks like magic dust. So what did you think about this though? Because I mean, he lets them go, right?
Right.
And this is, to me, it felt like this was part of the respect piece. He lets them go, tells them that they'll be protected. They can go back to Anchorhead. They're going to be protected. Don't have to worry about the Sand People attacking them. He gives them water, and they're basically tells them, look, I've spared your life. That's what you get from all this. But you need to go back and tell your bosses or whatever that this place is off limits, right?
It's an example of their civility, because that's what they kept arguing, is that these are savages and they were treating them as such. And Boba making a point that, these are not savages, they're people and you're on their land. And this is the part that I think was really, kind of a cool segue to the sequences coming up was, this is their ancestral land. This is where they've grown up and they're impeding on that. And, it works better if everybody is, doing their part. They have safe passages through, but they also pay a fair toll. Now, there's a lot of people that have been complaining that or not complaining, but making comments that Boba seems to have an issue with spice and that he's against it and trying to clean things up. I think we had a discussion about this in Discord. I don't get that impression at all. I think he was just making a point that they're over here making tons of money and, running the stuff back and forth. And if Jabba was in charge, they would be, they wouldn't be doing it so freely. Right. And they're not just running a train back and forth full of water, for humanitarian efforts or something like that. So, but the way that it came across though, and the way the dialogue was written and the way that it was, performed was a little bit confusing as to why it seemed like he had an issue with spice, but I don't really feel like he did.
Yeah, I don't either. Here's my thoughts, and I'm not going to say I'm right, but I probably am. I think, I'm kidding. I think if you look at the line, he says, these sands are no longer free for you to pass. These people lay ancestral claim to the Dune Sea, and if you pass, a toll is to be paid to them. Any death dealt from the passing freighters will be returned tenfold. Okay, so if you take that the first sentence here, or the second sentence, these people lay ancestral claim to the Dune Sea, and if you pass, a toll is to be paid to them. I think what he was trying to do is say, look, I know you're transferring spice. I know you have money. And going forward, you're going to pay money to the Tusken Raiders because this is their land. I don't think he has a problem with spice in general, but I do think he has a problem with the fact that they're using this to run across this land, and he wants these guys to get something from it, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's probably more in line of where he was going with that, trying to get them some income here or in some way. Now, what they do with the money, I don't know. That's
exactly.
All kinds of questions there. And then we get this at the very end here. I don't think I forgot. Yeah, the chief he does his little nod, approving of what had just happened. But I thought this was a cool moment too, because water, we don't talk enough about it here on Tatooine, but it is so scarce and so rare. And we've got moisture evaporators, and I didn't know anything about the black melons. I think those are new to canon, but they're not really water; it's milk.
Right.
But this whole scene here, where where he takes the valve off the top, the cap off of it, and that water spurting out, and just how excited they are because this is such a high commodity. way more important to these guys than the spice or anything else at this point.
Right. And that's what made chapter 1 so odd with the Klatooinians, with the biker gang, and they just left the spring of water going. If it was that precious, seems like that's what they would have been there for in the first place.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's not precious to them.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe not.
Because they're a biker gang.
Yeah, they kind of take whatever they want whenever they want.
They got all kinds of water, whatever. But
right. There you go, Twan. Let's waste it. Right.
They didn't know. Maybe they
weren't
did.
trying to stop it, though.
They weren't trying to stop it. Yeah. Like, I would have been like, plug that up now.
Right.
But yeah, they were trying to put it in tambourines or whatever.
I don't know what they had, like little tanks and like little cups.
Little cups. I'm like, go get the big stuff or put the cap back on. That is, you are wasting it. I did laugh at that too, but I mean, how often did this happen to them? They don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay. And then we get to this part, which we're finally coming around. Maybe we may get through this in 2.5 hours. So yeah, there's quite a few things. Yeah. So the question came up. So Tatooine was once had oceans. Yes. That was, where was that established? I don't remember if that was canon or Legends.
I think it was originally.
Was it Legends. The Kenobi movie or the Kenobi novel?
It's been too long. I couldn't remember.
So yeah, I think it is Legends. I don't think it's ever been canonized in any way, and I could be wrong there. I just cannot remember. I know for a fact it was Legends. I just don't remember what book it was. But yes, Tatooine at one point they had a ton of water, predominantly water. And if I remember correctly, there was some kind of catalytic event or something happened that dried up all of it and made it the sand dunes that we see today, and it's almost primarily sand at this point. But this was really good because we get some exposition from the leader here talking about that historically what had happened. We get more insight into the Tusken tribes themselves, and it's much more nuanced than just savages, right? There are different sects of tribes, and some of them are savages and are out pillaging and raiding, and they've got a bad reputation. But it's not these guys. These guys are more in tune with the land, and it's very. I don't want to say there's a lot of parallels here to Native American ancestry here, a lot of different Native American tribes, and we don't need to get into that. There's tons of people out there right now arguing to no end about all this stuff. It's absolutely insane. I think the key takeaway is that what John Favreau was trying to do is that, if you look back at a lot of the Native American tribes here in America, you have some that were more brutal than others, right? You had some that had ceremonies that were that we would look at and go, oh my gosh, that's horrifying. And then you had others that were not, right? That were more peaceful, that were more in tune with nature and that sort of thing. And that's all he was trying to do is like, look, the Tusken Raiders are not all savages. Yes, there are some savages out there, and maybe the ones that killed Shmi Skywalker were part of that group. Who's to say at this point? But they're not all like this. And this falls in line with Legends. Like this is nothing new. And I bring it up again, but in SWTOR, again, there are different tribes out there, and you learn some of this stuff through some of the other games out there. And I just love the fact that he's pulling from all that and giving us this. He's humanizing these guys in a way that we've never seen before.
Yeah, it only makes sense. I mean, different parts of every country, different parts of the world, we all have different ways of viewing things, and we're not all, So yeah, I thought this was great, and I like that we did get some of that backstory. And I know Dark Tower, I brought this up earlier in the show, and I know we were going to get here, but definitely some are more violent than others. And so, and this supports why, why they were less inclined to really do anything brutal to the Rodian and Boba Fett in the first chapter when they were captured, and so I think, or rescued, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so he gets into this, and I think Ash is right. I do, now that she says it, she says, wasn't it in KOTOR? Yes, it was in KOTOR. I remember that specifically, and that may be the first reference now that you say that. I think it comes back up again in the Kenobi novel or something else there, but yeah, I think you're right on that one. I thought it was interesting how adept he is at the sign language here now later on, and in my head too, just kind of as an aside, at some point, I have this whole crazy theory of Mando coming back to him and saying, hey, you're a Mandalorian, I need your help because we got to take back the homeworld. Him pushing back, saying, no, that's not really me. Convincing him he does. And at some point, they institutionalize this becomes a Mando thing, right? Like they take it from the Tusken Raiders and are able to use that as something that the Mandalorians now use. I would love to see a scene where you've got Boba and Mando working together and using sign language to stealthily go do stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be pretty neat.
So I don't know. I'm again waxing all kinds of crazy stuff here. Okay, here's where we get into the beginning of the what do you call it? Vision Quest.
Vision Quest, right?
There's the little lizard guy there. He looked a little like the lizard from Geico, but not much. And then he throws this, so the leader throws that dust at him, and then that lizard goes into his nose, which is not a flattering moment for Tamora Morrison, but there you go. And he starts hallucinating.
Right.
Which this is so, and again, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about Vision Quests. I did want to bring up, we talked about Vision Quests. Do you remember when we did the Qui-Gon Jinn Age of Republic novel?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, maybe I have it wrong. Was it I thought it was Qui-Gon Jinn who went on a Vision Quest as well.
Yes, it was. It was Qui-Gon.
Yeah. Yeah, he jumped in a ship and said, "I'm going to go and just go wherever the Force takes me." He shows up on a planet and then ends up going into like this whole kind of dream sequence thing. It's really good stuff.
Right.
I'm not trying to solicit our episode. I would say go find the comic and read that Age of Republic comic on Qui-Gon Jinn, which is really good stuff, and it is canon because it came out post Disney.
Right.
But it was very similar to this in that there was, and it's very similar again with Vision Quest, right? It's all about somebody going out trying to find themselves, and there's some prerequisites got to happen, right? You got to have to be by yourself. Usually you go without any food or water, prior to you fast. Prior to that, a lot of times,
usually you take some drugs.
Usually you can. Well, yeah, it's kind of not always a prerequisite, but yeah, you can. A lot of them are that way.
That's what happened to Beavis and Butthead, the movie.
Oh man, you're gonna get my brother going here on that. But yeah, so he does take. There's some drugs that are involved here, as well as a guide. I mean, I thought that was a very interesting part where he said that you are a good guide. That's what the chief tells Boba Fett, and then says this gift will guide you, and that's when the lizard goes in. So the lizard is actually the guide that is going to help take him on this vision quest that ultimately is going to end up getting a stick for his gaffy stick. But in the Vision Quest itself, I think that the symbolism of it all was really where I was like, oh man, right. I was eating this stuff up left and right because there's just so much stuff that we're going to break down here. I keep saying stuff a lot tonight. I don't know why. Okay, so let's get into the Vision Quest itself. And I'll give you my interpretation, and I'm not saying I'm right. So if you guys have other opinions, please throw them in the chat. Jonesy, obviously speak up if you think you interpreted this away or interpreted a different way. But early on in this Vision Quest, you see him, he's going out in the desert, right? He's all by himself. And we get these flashes, and you can kind of see it on screen here. There's two of them where we get what looks to be Boba Fett in his old armor, right? So that being symbolic of this is the old Boba Fett. This is what's traversing through the desert right now. It's everything that he is, everything that he was up until now, including the armor. And this is kind of this is who he is. He's been defined in this way. Okay. And here's a better shot. You can see it there where it's pretty clear that he's wearing the old armor, right? He's not his new armor. And then we get this shot here, which I thought was really cool. The symbolism of the trees, right? The tree of life comes to mind. You've got a tall tree, a small tree. So you potentially got what I'm think is the tall tree being his father. He is the smaller tree kind of in the shadow. The water being representative of Camino itself, right? So there's some symbolism there. And just stop me if I keep rambling too much here. And then he goes towards the father tree. He doesn't go towards the kid tree. He goes to what I think is the father tree. And for me, this was symbolic of him still being caught up in what happened to his father, right? The events that happened in Attack of the Clones with his father dying put him on a path. He was already kind of on a weird path anyways because of the way his dad was and operated, right? But you think about his character in the Clone Wars and just how kind of a snot-nosed kid he was, and he always had a chip on his shoulder, right? This is all part of that, right? It's because he's been not necessarily living in his father's shadow, but those events are what kind of put him on that path initially, and he's never really been able to break away from it. He's never been able to go out and be himself, be somebody other than that character, that snot-nosed kid, the one that was the bounty hunter, the ruthless killer, and all that stuff, right? And so that tree then starts to consume him, right? He starts getting entangled in it, being representative. This is you're tied up in all the history that exists with everything that's bad in your life that's happened in your past. The part that I don't really have a good theory on, because the the concept art throws it off. I had this theory of these eyes. Right? You see all these little eyeballs. I was looking at this as all of the past sins or the past people that his father has killed or he has killed. Right? They're all kind of looking down. They've got these evil eyes and looking at the Fett name and the ancestry tree and all the the evil deeds that they did. And he's looking at it. They look kind of scary. When you go back and look at the concept art, what was it? It was
Jawas.
Yeah, it was Jawas. And I'm like, wait a minute, what did Jawas got to do with any of this? So that kind of puts a hole in that theory, I think, unless they just have a thing for Jawas. I don't know.
These are the red-eye Jawas.
Red-eye Jawas.
Oh, but you look at the one on the bottom area of the screen. It's got a very different outline to it.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult unless I think that's just a branch over it. Actually, it just makes it look weird.
Yeah, and and all these branches too, like you think about the family tree. I see this as like the clones themselves as well. And when I was looking at the eyes, I was thinking, okay, maybe those are the clones that were looking down at him at some point. That was an earlier on theory that I had, but I don't know. The red eyes for me was like all the bad stuff that has happened in the shame, not shame, but the I guess the name that the Fets have made for themselves over the years.
Right.
So, okay. And then, again, we get more imagery here of him being consumed. This is, again, he's stolen his old helmet. He's kind of almost drowning in all of the branches. It cuts over to him kind of drowning again in the Sarlacc pit. So for me, this was kind of like a transition piece. This is transition imagery of him dying, right? He's right. Basically dying in the pit of Carcoon. And the old Jabba is no more. And then we're going to come to that here in a little bit. We got this image here. He's looking into the helmet. He sees his reflection, which is maybe his dad, but it's definitely him, right? Very similar to Luke in Empire Strikes Back in the cave, where his destiny is going to be that if he keeps continuing down the same path. And I think that's what we're seeing here is, as a kid, when he picked that helmet up, he was destined to become this character that we see today, because he's never been able to kind of break away from that. This was a really cool shot. The way it was filmed, the fact that we got this picture of a young Daniel Logan, which I think is CGI. It looks CGI to me, especially when you pause it. But again, the symbolism being that his father's gone. His father's left him, and he's watching. You can see his reflection. I think I got it. No, I didn't get it in here. He's self-reflecting on the fact that his father has left. This has put a big hole in his life, that he's lost his dad at such an early age, right? I mean, there's science out there that says that, kids that lose their parents at early ages are susceptible to going down wrong paths unless they have people to guide them and to, nurture them and, set them straight. It's a very traumatic thing to go through unless you've got an outlet. Yeah, this stuff can happen to you. And then this is more rebirth stuff, right? Him coming out. And now I look at that first scene from episode 1 where he's coming out of the pit. That really was, we joked about that was Night of the Living Dead, the way his hand came out. And I think what they were going for was showing that is him coming out of the pit as a new person to be defined, which is what's happening, I think, in this episode. But I think that was, and we speculated about that. We said that the Boba Fett that we were seeing, hopefully that we were, at least for me, I was hoping we were going to see a different Boba Fett come out of this series, that he was no longer going to be that person that we knew. Because as much as we love the fact that he was a ruthless killer and all that, he had a lot of baggage, and we've talked about this in the episode many times. There were a lot of things he did that were just stupid and dumb. I didn't really like him as a character, to be frank. I got a wallet and a onesie and everything else, but
right.
I never really, like, he was cool, but I just didn't like what they did with Canon. And not to say that I'm throwing shade at the Canon stuff, but I just didn't like his character. I thought I wanted him to be a badass, but I've always wanted him to be a good badass, if that makes sense. So I was kind of hoping this would happen. Maybe it is going to happen. Maybe not. I may be reading too much into this. But this is the one that I really enjoy the most, right? He's got this tree. This is where he finally grabs onto the branch. And the symbolism here being that he is breaking free. He's literally breaking this branch that was his father. He's breaking all of that baggage, all the trauma that he's carried throughout his entire life. And when you can see it right here, he finally breaks it. And this is what allows him to get away from it, right? So this is now the rebirth. This is somebody that's brand new that's come out, and he's put all of that behind him now. When he does that, you get you can see it here cracking, and then I didn't get the shot. It's the big waves that are crashing in at that point,
right?
and the trees are gone. It's just waves that have come in. So all of that is now behind him, and he's now this new person and gets to be his own person at this point without living in the shadow of his past and certainly his father. Okay, so that was unscripted, but that was what I was thinking as I was watching this. What did you think?
Wow, my thoughts are not that complicated. No, the imagery of, I mean, this is kind of a typical Vision type of quest, right? Where you have to transcend, you have to find that next step and that next path forward. And the only way to do that is to let go of the past. And yeah, some of it is a bit, I thought some of it was a bit heavy handed with the emergence of the, from the Sarlacc pit and things like that. But again, it's this idea that he's shed the armor, which is basically he's reborn as, in a, for lack of a better word, naked, right? So this is who he is, and this is who, at your core, we have redefined who that is. And then you can then you start your path forward, and then you remake yourself, and you start to rebuild in the way that you want to be, rather than the way that you have been, or the way that you feel like you're, predetermined or predestined to be. And that's whatever you've done. Now, I don't have any real sympathy or empathy for Boba Fett, to be honest with you, but I do recognize and appreciate that he has to evolve and move past something, or move past where he's at, because clearly we saw this in the comics. He was still broke. He was still jumping from place to place. People still stab you in the back. Now, I'd argue that being the daimyo is not really going to solve these problems, and I don't know how this is actually changing anything for him. So again, we have to see where the remaining chapters go. But I don't. This part of it definitely rebirth, but how is this actually translating into the current story is super unclear. And again, we don't have enough to understand really what he's doing that's different in the present than what he has, supposedly learned and moved forward from this point on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
But I like that you brought the Qui-Gon book, because the sequence where he's getting consumed by the Sarlacc and things like that, those are very much Qui-Gon was going through that, getting consumed by, I think there were vines or something like that.
It was a tree.
Right?
I think he was in a tree or something, like a dark side tree or something.
Some sort of plant, that was just consuming him, or the planet itself. And it did engage those kind of memories for me as well. So I like that kind of parallel there. But again, it shows you the trope is good, because we keep going back to it. There's a reason why they're tropes, is that they're good, they're fun. And I think Lauren was saying earlier, they're fun. They make sense. It's things that we can relate to. And this makes the characters more relatable, and what it takes and how difficult it can be to make these journeys in life and actually become something different, become something potentially better.
Yep.
And walk of shame home.
Yeah. He's got to come. It's like the hangover walk next morning. So he comes back. He's got his ranch there. I like that they looked at it to inspect it. To make sure it was good. There again, not a very flattering moment for Tamora Morrison.
Okay, so I will say this about the branch. I like the branch. I like all the things that come after the branch. What I don't understand is how he got a branch, right? I mean, if he's tripping out, there's no tree in Tatooine outside that we've ever seen, right? So that's one of those, like, where does it come from? I mean, I get the transcendent nature and the spiritual element of those types of things, but how you materialize something physical from that feels a little bit less Star Wars to me than what we've had. And I know we have the handing of the lightsaber with Ben and Rey, but that was kind of something a bit more unique and special in that regard, right? Of passing something through space and time.
Yeah.
Whereas this seems like I'm tripping out, but I'm still able to somehow bring something back physically. That was the only part that I don't dislike it by any stretch. I was just confused by it, that, how do these things happen? And there's never going to be an explanation, or anything like that. But
no, there will never be one. I get I totally get what you're saying. Like the reasonable person in me goes, where is this tree at on Tatooine? How is it nurtured?
I'm being told to believe in magic now.
Well, that's kind of where
it's a kind of magic.
Yeah. I mean, you said it is a spiritual thing. I don't think it's meant to be explained.
Right.
If there's any, he's got a lizard in his head, right? So
right. Yeah. That part seems Star Wars to me. Oddly enough.
Right. It seemed very Star Trek to me, but
Actually, yeah, it did.
I would
Rather
say, maybe it is that the lizard, right? It's a guide. Like that tree is a mystic tree that does live out there, or it only comes out at night, or only appears on certain times, or whatever. And the only way you can find it is by that lizard, right? Those lizards are somehow attuned to be able to find these, kind of like a tuning fork, or not a tuning fork. What do you call them? A water fork, whatever they call them.
Oh, well, yeah.
Whatever it is. You get a branch and you can find water with a branch. It's not real.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing, right? So the lizard can find, it's a guide. It can take you to this tree that you wouldn't normally be able to find anywhere else whatsoever, because it's magical or spiritual or the force or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Making this stuff up. Okay. But I get you. So the lizard comes back out, jumps in its little thing there. There's the branch. He's presenting it to it. And then they take him in here, and this is where we get, him getting these robes put on and being wrapped in them. And we get some imagery here. If you look at the way the scars are, I mean, that looks like burns, right? Like acidic burns that he went through. Which I still don't like. I think there's more here. I think we still don't understand the degree of either his wounds, or something else is going to happen between now and the next 5 years that puts him in the state that we see him in the present day, where he has bursts of energy, but he has to get back in the bacta tank, right? I think there's probably going to be more there, because he really has no problem through any of this, right? We don't see him having to recover here. So we'll see. Time will tell on that one. But the takeaway was just the fact that he does have what looks to be like acidic burns all over his body.
That's why I'm hoping the bacta tank isn't just the mechanism for all of this, that there's actually something of note that comes to it.
His branch is crooked. It has a bend. The others look straightened. Any thoughts? I like that too.
Actually, yeah. Actually, because this came up when I was watching it. Actually, if you look at it, Boba Fett makes most of his out of metal, so it's only about half the length of the gaffy, and he's shaving it down. So he's definitely taken a lot off of it.
Yeah, it's an interesting design. If you look at the gaffy sticks, I think Tawan brought her up, or someone. No. But yeah, most of the gaffy sticks that even in this episode, and when you look back at the old movies and anything else, they're all pretty much straight. His does definitely have curvature to it for some reason, and it is not all wood, right? It's predominantly metal. Like, it's only the head that it looks like it was been.
That's just the core, basically.
Yeah.
It really looks only like maybe a 1 to 2 foot section of it.
I have more pictures, so we can talk about that a little bit later. How long was he in the Sarlacc pit? Do we know? I think we talked about this in the first episode and said he was probably in the pit maybe an hour. I mean, it wasn't long.
Probably no more than a day or two.
Yeah.
Past, yeah.
I mean, the wreckage was still smoldering. At least, I think we talked about it. It could have been smoldering still, or it could have been sand blowing in the background. To me, it looked like it was still smoldering, so relatively quick. I don't think he was in there very long. He probably came to, saw that he couldn't breathe, got some oxygen, then said, "I need to get the hell out of here." Started burning his way out of there. So,
right.
Let's see. There's like a close up there of the scar.
Back.
The dressing of this, the dressing here. What I was going to say when you were talking about it, I did like this as well. But the first thing that came to mind was the droids that put his armor on. Right, we talked about that was kind of weird, or not weird, but it was just different. Like we didn't expect droids to do that. We talked about the Vader comparison, and with Vader, it's much more of a necessity because of how mechanical he is. But I wonder if there was something in that now that we see this, right? That if there's something that maybe the Tusken Raiders, when they get dressed, there's somebody that dresses them, maybe at a certain level, or and he's carried that over into his now present life, where he's got these droids that do it for him because this is what he's used to, having spent time with the Tusken Raiders all these years. I don't know. It was just very similar to the way, especially the way it's shot and filmed. If you go back and watch those two scenes kind of side by side or one after another, it looks very similar.
Yep.
This is his best Jesus Christ Superstar impersonation.
Yeah, in a hot box.
In a hot box. Another old reference. That was a 60s reference, so you're welcome. More rapping going on here. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the, like, all of a sudden you get some ammunition around him too to complete the look. Yeah, and this is the look we have in the Mandalorian.
Yep, right
I mean,
out of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I did include this shot as well. So this is him coming over to, I guess, whoever the wood guy is. What do you call them? Woodmakers?
The blacksmith. You could whatever you
Sure.
want to call him.
We'll call him blacksmith.
The Tuscan equivalent of the armorer.
Yeah, there you go. But I want to call that out as well. So this is the Ralph McQuarrie art from Star Wars, where we've got Tusken Raiders, and you've got that
Some sort of wreckage.
yeah, wreckage being used there, and they took that. I mean,
Do you notice the banthas look like more like pig?
oh yeah, they
Pig,
do look
pig
more
nose
piglish.
with ram.
Yep.
Ram ears. Yeah. Anyway,
Interesting. I never really paid attention to that.
I really liked this sequence though. So, and again, I like the contrast with not that picture, but it's the, when Din Djarin gives the armor the all of the Beskar to smelt and to form and to create the armor, it was very hands off. While he watched,
Right.
it was very much that. With the Tuscans, though, it's very much everybody is a participant. You have to do this yourself. This is part of that passage. So you've done you've proved yourself. You've gone to the Vision Quest. You have gone through the at least part of the ceremony, and now you need to craft your weapon, right? And this is kind of like being a Jedi of sorts, right?
Creating your own set lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you create your weapon. This is it's a testament of not only your progress, but also it's an example and a resemblance of who you are and what you represent and kind of what you want to do. And so I thought this was really cool that they made him do it. It makes so much sense for them to do it. And I just really loved the contrast with what we had in Mandalorian, where it was very a standoffish type of experience when compared with this, which is very much a very independent, very personal. While you get guidance, it's a very personal experience.
Yep. Yeah, there's some
and we
sweat
see that in
equity.
the design. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll say sweat equity is in here. And this aligns with the concept art from the first episode, chapter 1. We saw that concept art where he's got a gaffy stick and a rifle on a stand, right? So he's not just got them laying in the corner. These mean something to him, right? It's almost like samurai swords or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a craft that goes into it, and again, just adds much more
detail that he did.
Yeah. I didn't get a picture of that where he's carving it. I wanted to. I love the way he carved the head of the gaffy stick, using the chisels and wood. But yeah, there's also him adding these little, I don't know what they are, the fins, I guess if you want to call them that, there
right
at the very end. So yeah, as the question came up, how long were they standing here watching him build this thing? I mean, I don't know, all day, I would imagine.
But you see of that tree, of that branch,
it's only right here.
Yeah, there's really not a whole lot to it.
Yeah, all this is metal here, and I didn't get the other. If you go back and watch it, there's like from about maybe 3/4 of the way, 4/5 of the way, it's all kind of metal.
Yeah,
and it's just that end.
Yeah,
and I imagine,
and that's all. Yeah, I mean the end of the gaffy stick where you get the bantha floss.
Oh yeah, the pick.
Yeah, that's all metal there. That's coated. And it looks like it's been wrapped. Even in the wood part, there's parts that have been definitely been wrapped in metal. Yep.
It's a cool looking gaffy stick. I'll give it that.
Absolutely.
So, and I never thought I'd say that because they're gaffy sticks, Yeah. And so we get to the final sequence, which was probably, one of my favorites, of course. I think I loved all of this episode, but yeah, definitely that moment when the chieftain gets up. And so, he walks in, they've got the fire going. And then here, it starts off with...
as soon as they started walking around the fire, I just knew immediately this was a dance. And it just clicked. Everything just kind of clicked, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so cool. I mean, it just makes so much sense. There's so many cultures that have this type of thing, this type of ritual where, you celebrate. And celebrating and dance are always synonymous with one another.
Yeah, there's the shot of the leader finally getting in and doing it, and so they kind of all just join in here. This is all very inspired. I mean, you can see his crazy eyes again here, and you can see her as well. She's off to the right.
She was actually. I loved the way that she danced because it was very, very low and crouch. It was like a predatory prowl, as she went around she was really engaging to watch the entire time. Just watch her the entire sequence, and you will be entertained and awed all at the same time. It was fantastic.
Yeah. I don't, and Ash brought up something just to dance, Boba and you all, the choreography too. So yeah, part of it is they probably, I don't know, I imagine at some point they taught him this stuff, or it's all, maybe this is a, because you go back to when he's training, those are like what they would call katas, right? In martial arts, they're a set of routine moves that you would use when you're doing combat, but they can be a form of expression, right? Artistic expression in themselves. We see that all the time in martial arts. And so maybe this is what all it really was, is it's just a series of moves. And because he's been training for so long and doing them so long, they become second nature.
Well,
or
yeah.
they all just jump
Capoeira.
in.
And capoeira like that? Like,
Yeah, I think
Brazil,
so.
yeah. I mean, that's the whole premise of it, is that it's very dance-like.
Mm-hmm.
And
The Brazilian martial arts is what you're talking about.
right. Yeah. Yep.
Now, in real life, I'm really curious as to how much Tamura Morrison had influenced given he's, the Haka stuff that he does, right? And how
Right.
many of the moves are from that? Because a lot of these moves do look very similar. And he's using a lot of the same expressions. If you go out and watch some of the videos where he's done this, because of his own ancestry, it looks very similar to a lot of this stuff. So the fact that they've blended these two together is just like, just awesome. Really amazing stuff. And then I think my computer's locked up, or that's the last picture. I don't know.
That's the last one, probably.
Let me see. I thought I had one more. Maybe not. Oh, I do have one more.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like the fun. It doesn't end there. It ends.
Are
on
they all with the
holding the stick straight in front of them?
right?
Which I didn't get. So shame on me. But you get the point. And by the way, those logs are not burning. So there you go. Go back and watch it. It's again another thing that we do here, but.
Well, hold
Those
on.
logs are not burning.
Well, there's an area in the middle that's probably open, and that's what's burning. These are just the symbolic logs around the edges.
Where did they get the logs, huh? Where
From
are
the
they getting all
tree.
this wood?
Yeah, they
don't
chop
know.
the tree down every time. Everybody takes a hit of lizard and goes out there and grabs
I
a
get a
branch.
lizard. I need a dime bag of lizard. Here's and then it ends with directed by Steph Green. So amazing stuff. I thought she did.
Very cool episode. Very cool episode.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times where the living in the dream state here was really wildly cool.
Yeah.
I mean, just really wildly cool and really great storytelling. And I've really appreciated. We had a conversation about it in Discord where this is the time where the Tuscan culture, some people have been really enamored by it or interested in what there's got to be more to it than just this savagery and just this chaotic nature to the to these beings and the humanizing of the Tuscans. I know not everybody's on board with, but I really like it that there are not every, just because if you look at again some of the Native Americans that were more violent in nature, they still had aspects of their culture that were very, very interesting and very, very unique and very, very cool. And some of the experiences lead to other behaviors, right? And so it was really cool to see a different side of the Tuscan. I don't know, what do you call them, race or species, or I don't know what exactly. We don't really know what they are in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Humanoid-ish, but I mean, it's just really cool to see another side of it and to have more of those types of things and to have it influence a character like Boba will be very interesting to see where they take that. Although there's more flags kind of going off as a result of that. Of are we going to see more inconsistencies as the story goes on? And so I hope they really start to align some of these, especially as we get into probably chapters 4 and 5. I would expect some of that stuff to become a bit more clear and a bit more consistent and aligned there.
Yeah. So maybe we end on just kind of where we think or want to see the series go at this point. I think for me, I'm okay with it continuing on as it is. I don't mind the flashbacks, I guess, at this point.
Right.
I imagine we're still going to get them, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said earlier, I was kind of taking my own thunder away, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get flashbacks all the way up until episode 7, and it ends with the moment that he is either made aware that there is somebody running around with that armor, or he sees that speeder bike go by with Mando on it and carrying it away. Right. That would be fine, and hopefully we get the Fennec Shin backstory there, and how he finds her, left for dead in the desert and rebuilds her and all that. In the present day, definitely think we're going to have a war. Like I can see where you've got all these different kind of feudal lords coming together. Maybe, we joked about, is somebody going to attack the palace? Well, I don't think it. Maybe they all attack the palace. Maybe that's where the final battle is, or something, right? Or, if we go the legends route, though, or not legends, if we go the route that I was saying, so that I'm going to come back to a comment I made earlier where I said there is a part of me that I have a theory as to where this is how it's going to end up, and it's not really my own original theory. It's just that we've already pulled some of the Cobb Vanth stuff from the Aftermath trilogy, and if you remember in that same story, there's a moment there where they call upon the Tusken Raiders, right? He befriends the Tusken Raiders, and he calls them in, and they come in and whoop everybody's ass, right? And so what I'm thinking is at some point, because he doesn't have an army right now, right? He's going up. He's got a very small group. He still doesn't even have a protocol droid. You got to figure at some point he's going to have to start building up army of some sort. Where is he going to get these people? I think he's going to supplement that with other people, bounty hunters, people for hire, and that sort of thing. But I would love to see him at some point call in as a favor to the Tusken Raiders, and they pay it back out of respect and align with them, right? They end up having churning the tide, if you will, right? The Ewoks have returned the Jedi, only the Tusken Raiders showing up in full force. And not only that, but wouldn't it be cool? Sorry, the last thing. We're talking about the parallels between present and past, where he's in present day he's trying to earn the respect of all of these folks. But what if he's learned that lesson by bringing the tribes of Tatooine together, right? I don't know if there's enough time, like enough runway to do this. Right. But what if he does that, and it's not just this group of Tusken Raiders, but somehow he's managed to get them to all kind of work together and be,
that sounds familiar.
Alliances. Yeah, right. But
to align with your Mandalorian theory.
It does. It's all part of it, right? It's all part of the same. I got to get this theory in there somewhere, right? But yeah, so he comes together, and it's not just a group of Sand people show up, but it's a whole nation of Sand people that show up, an entire army that end up fighting for him, and they all take over Tatooine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think some of the things with that one though is that clearly the chief said that there are different aspects of the Tusken Raiders, right? Different clubs, different factions, whatever you want to call them, and they seem like they don't really get along all that well. It's unclear whether they really cross-pollinate or they really, come across each other, even like each other, which is not surprising. A lot of cultures don't like each other, but yeah. So I don't know about that, but I think one thing that is very clear though is that Boba, I think with him and Finn exchange with the Hutts, is going to be very clear that they won't be able to take on the resources of someone like the Hutts if they come out in full force without something, right? For sure. And I think this is where we're going to, where he's going to start pooling that maybe the Trandoshan, some of the scenes that we saw in the trailers, right? That they'll come back in and they'll start to say, okay, we've got to band together because we don't want to go back to Hutt rule. There's enough here for us to make we could do really well for ourselves. We can work for our own. This is how I'm going to treat you. We don't want to do that. And there will be enough energy behind that. We'll have to see how well that sticks around, because usually that's a pretty short-lived alliance. But I think, at some point, the Tuskens might make the difference in that type of conflict. And are we going to see a big battle or something like that? I'm curious what that would look like, because we don't have a really clear picture of who the enemy is, right? Or is Boba the enemy? It's one of those things of we don't quite have that establishment of where the pure conflict is going to be, and how an idea of what that means to resolve that. And so I think that's where, again, I think you and I are aligned in this one, where we need that present day story to start moving forward and giving us a little bit of that picture about who does Boba and Fennec see as someone they have to deal with, because they're watching a lot of people now, right? I mean, they're watching Garsa Fwip, they're watching the Major Domo, they're watching the mayor, now they got to watch out for the Hutts. You got Black K, you got this biker gang that shows up every once in a while. They don't seem like a really super threat, and we don't know that they're around in the present day or not, because we haven't seen them yet, right?
No, not yet.
Right. So I mean, those are the things, and again, we know we're going to live in flashbacks, because we still need to know how Boba learns that the Jawas, or how does he figure out where his armor's at? Does he come across Cobb Vanth? Why doesn't he attack Cobb Vanth and just demand his armor? and those types of things. When does he go back and find Slave One? We think Slave One is a anchorhead, right? I believe.
Well,
so he says to the Rhodian,
yeah,
I can get us off world if we get to anchorhead.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, but we haven't been back there. I think I think we're getting close though. And I know in the chat, someone said we don't think we're going to see this as much flashback heavy stuff. I hope that's the case. I hope we start to really lean, 50-50 or start to lean more heavily on the present day. And let's see where this story takes us.
Mm-hmm.
And the backstory's been great. If we get more stuff like we got this week, man, fantastic.
I know. I mean,
it was awesome.
For all the crap that I've said about I don't want to go back to Tatooine. Like I'm sitting here gushing about the fact that we went back to Tatooine. So
right.
It's all about the story at the end of the day.
Right. So. Yeah. And this whole idea of asking permission to kill a Hutt's interesting. That's who has the kill switch on that one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be to be determined still. I just don't know enough about in canon or even in Legends, really, the underworld and how that works just yet.
Well, what would be really cool is if this was a way for Crimson Dawn to still be around.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm not ruling out
Kira.
I'm not ruling out Kira. There's still plenty of characters we've talked about in that first episode of the final hype episode that we could potentially see. But it looks like we talked about former bounty hunters or other bounty hunters coming into play, and we got one with Black K. Maybe Bosk shows up at some point, or all these other ones, but we'll see.
Man, I hope so. I hope he references that last time we met, you blew my legs off.
Yep. They grew back. He's fine.
Actually, I guess that already happened. Yeah. Oh, no, it didn't. No, that was after Empire Strikes Back. Okay. Yeah. So it'd be cool. Maybe he's got a limp and a cane.
He's got a hurt back. All right. I think this is done. I think we're dead. Time of death is 2 hours and 26 minutes. Do we got anything before we get out of here?
So many thank yous of everybody who participated and listened to the chat. A lot of regular faces, of course, some old faces that have resurfaced, and we certainly appreciate that. And of course, the new folks, we certainly appreciate you guys finding us. For the folks listening on the podcast, we do have a live stream. We try to do this. Probably going to do this on Thursdays. Does that sound about right for Boba? Boba? Yeah, we want to get this out quickly, but also give us time to absorb some of it. So, look for the whole work thing, right? So look for us out on all the social medias, facebook.com/CantinaCast, and you get all of those notices. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to it. Hit the little bell, of course, and you'll get notified when we schedule a show. And we try to do that several days in advance to have an idea. And we usually do this about 9 p.m. Central and go until the wee hours of the morning. But thank you to everyone who came out. And if you want to tune into the Patreon show, which we have tomorrow, patreon.com/thecantinacast, and all sorts of other good stuff out there. We're working on some other things in the future here too. And certainly go out there and check Albert's spoiler-free review of The High Republic, The Fallen Star.
Yep.
Oh, and our giveaway. Again, tell us on social media what your favorite part of Chapter 2 was for Book of Boba Fett and why, and you are entered into the giveaway. And we will do the drawing next week.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Good. Thank you.
I hope so.
I hope so too. That was a lot. But all right, I'm going to roll credits, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Patreon show if you're a Patreon member. And if not, we'll see you back next Thursday for Chapter 3, whatever that may be.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.